I died of a sudden heart attack at the awards ceremony because my husband, a renowned scholar, publicly thanked his mistress in front of the national audience. When I opened my eyes again, it was 1975, the day he proposed to me with a recommendation letter for the Worker Peasant Soldier University. In my previous life, I paved his path to success with my youth and future, only to be repaid with the words, "We lack common ground." This time, I looked at his seemingly affectionate face and tore up. The marriage contract. Jia Yuqing, you walk your own path to glory, I'll take my own narrow, solitary road. One I Am Dead died in the spring when her husband, Jia Yuqing, gained widespread fame. Professor Jia, who do you most want to thank for achieving such remarkable success in your life? Under the spotlight, the man I had served for 30 years, with his scholar's silver hair and deliberately affectionate eyes behind his gold-rimmed glasses, he spoke into the microphone, his voice echoing through the venue via the sound system. The one I most want to thank is my confidant, Ms. Lin Weiqing. A wave of warm applause filled the room. The journalists quickly took notes. 30 years ago, during my most difficult years as an informed youth, it was she who encouraged me to keep studying. All these years, she has been the first to review every important paper I've written. I sat in the front row of the family section, my heart gripped by a cold hand. My son Jia gently nudged me from the side, lowering his voice, "Mom, manager expression, the camera's coming over." My daughter Jia Ting simply turned her face away, pretending not to know me. The speech on stage continued. Unfortunately, some connections are destined to remain as soulmates, but I always believe that spiritual harmony is far more precious than a formal marriage. The applause rang out again. This time, it was even more enthusiastic. A young journalist stood up and pressed further. "Professor Jia, what about your wife? I hear she gave up her chance to return to the city to stay with your mother in the countryside for 10 years. Jia Yuqing smiled, the kind of smile I was familiar with, one tinged with a subtle pity. "My wife is a traditional woman. She has made many sacrifices for the family, and I am deeply grateful. However, we must acknowledge that some of these sacrifices are merely repetitive labor, lacking in creative value, like cooking a meal. You do it today and you'll have to do it again tomorrow. But a single paper can influence an entire field for decades." I feel a chill all over. All those years of doing laundry, cooking, taking care of my in-laws, raising children, and even staying up all night copying manuscripts for him while he wrote his papers. In his eyes, it was just repetitive labor. As the press conference moved into the Q&A session, I stood up and slowly walked out. My steps felt unsteady, like walking on cotton. The TV screens in the corridor were replaying the earlier scenes. Lin Weiqing had been invited onto the stage at some point, her 50-something years well maintained to look like she was in her early 40s. Leaning close to Jia Yuqing, they accepted congratulations side by side, like a perfect couple. "Mom," Jia Ting chased after her, her tone impatient, "what are you trying to cause now? Can't you just hold it together for today, for Dad's important event?" I looked at her, the daughter I had carried for 10 months and scrimped and saved to send abroad for her studies. "You think I should just endure it too? What else would it be?" Jia Ting frowned. "Auntie Lin has really helped Dad a lot. She's an associate professor at the university and can talk to Dad about academics. What about you? Besides asking Dad what he wants to eat today, what else can you talk about?" I opened my mouth, but no words came out. A sharp pain shot through my heart. "Mom, your face is so pale." Jia came out. "Are you feeling unwell in your heart? Did you bring your medicine?" I fumbled with my handbag, but couldn't get the zipper open no matter how hard I tried. My vision started to blur. The last thing I saw was Jia Ting speaking into her phone. "Dad, Mom might be having a heart attack. It's okay, you keep signing books, brother, and I will take her to the hospital." Then came endless darkness too. When I opened my eyes again, the familiar smell of disinfectant mixed with mildew filled my nostrils. It took me several seconds to realize what was above me. Not the clean white ceiling of a hospital, but the mud roof papered with old newspapers. With a dim light bulb hanging from a wire, a woman's voice came from beside me. "Xin Yulan, you're awake. Get up, quick, we've got work to do this morning." I bolted upright in bed, a cramped room with 4 wooden plank beds. A slogan reading "Vast lands await, great deeds to be done" was pasted on the wall. On the bed by the window, a girl with braided pigtails was combing her hair in front of a small mirror. Was that Zhou Xiaomei? Didn't she pass away from breast cancer in 1998? Trembling, I reached up to touch my face, skin firm, no wrinkles. I looked at the small round mirror on the broken wooden table across from me, and in it was a young face, barely in its 20s, though haggard. 1975. I was back to being 21, in my 3rd year of working in the countryside in Shanbei. "My wedding to Jia Yuqing is in 3 months. What are you daydreaming about? Zhou Xiaomei turned around. Jia Yuqing came looking for you first thing this morning. He's waiting outside the courtyard gate. He said he has something important to tell you today. Something important. It came back to me on June 12, 1975. Jia Yuqing formally proposed to me for the first time. No, to be precise, he informed me that we were getting married. He said, Yulan, my family pulled some strings to secure a recommendation for a worker peasant soldier university spot, but being married would make it more certain. Let's get the marriage certificate first. Once I'm in university, I'll find a way to get you back to the city. Back then, at 21, I nodded with a flushed face, believing it was the grandest promise in the world. Little did I know, that recommendation spot was rightfully his all along. He married me just to tie me down, to keep a fool who willingly stayed in the countryside to care for his sick mother, giving up my own chance to return to the city. Yulan, Zhou Xiaomei looked at me. Strangely, are you crying? I wiped my face, my hand came away wet. It wasn't tears, it was hatred. It was the hatred of 30 years spent being trampled underfoot, only to have Madame Jia Yuqing carved on her tombstone in the end. It's fine, I said, pushing aside the patched, thin quilt as I got out of bed to put on my shoes. I'll go see him now. In the courtyard, the morning mist had yet to fully dissipate. Jia Yuqing stood under the old pagoda tree, wearing faded blue work clothes, his posture straight and upright admittedly. He did have good looks in his youth, sharp eyebrows, bright eyes, and a scholarly air mixed with the unique aloofness of an educated youth. In my previous life, I was deceived all along by his appearance and that intellectual aura. Yulan, he saw me and gave a gentle smile, then pulled out an oil paper package from his chest. I brought you a piece of jujube cake, bought from the county. If it were before, I would have been so moved that my nose would have tingled. Now all I see is the calculation in his eyes. Get to the point, I said, not taking the oil paper package. Jia Yuqing paused, then smiled again. You really know me. Here's the thing, I got a letter from home saying there's a chance to go to university, but it requires being married. We've been together for 2 years now, so what do you say we get the certificate first? Exactly the same as in my past life. Which university? I asked. Probably the Provincial Worker Peasant Soldier University. It's not finalized yet, he said evasively, but it's a great chance to get back to the city. Yulan, once I'm settled, I promise I'll bring you back with me. How? I stared into his eyes. Once we're married, my household registration gets transferred to your production brigade, you go off to university, and I'm left here taking care of your sick mother. Then, for years later, after you graduate and get assigned a job, we'll figure it out slowly. Jia Yuqing's face changed. You, how can you say that? Am I that kind of person? You are. 2 words, spoken with calm certainty. He froze completely. The morning mist drifted slowly between us, and in the distance came the sound of the work bell calling the production team to start their day. Jia Yuqing. I took a step forward, closing the distance until I could see my own reflection in his pupils. That recommendation slot. Your father bought it for you with 2 cartons of Diqianmen cigarettes, didn't he? Marriage wasn't a requirement. Your mother just wanted a free maid, and you wanted a stepping stone. What nonsense are you talking? His voice shot up, then he hastily lowered it. Yulan, has someone been whispering in your ear? Don't listen to their poison. My feelings for you are genuine. I truly want to. Genuine. I laughed until the tears came. Jia Yuqing, you remember this day. Remember every single word I, Shin Yulan, say. I won't marry him. I'm going to fight for that return to the city quota myself. As for you, I took 2 steps back, looking at him like he was trash. Marry whoever you want, but don't you dare set your sights on me again. With that, I turned and walked away. Shin Yulan, he shouted after me, you'll regret this, if you pass me up. What decent family in this godforsaken place could you possibly marry into? Didn't your mother's letter say it? A woman's most important job in life is to marry well. I didn't stop walking. The wind swept across the fields, carrying the scent of earth and fresh grass. Yes, my mother used to say that in her previous life. She repeated all her life. Yulan, a woman should look up to her man. Yulan, endure it, and it will pass. Yulan, for the sake of the children, I endured for 30 years, enduring until my husband thanked his mistress in front of the whole world, enduring until my children were ashamed of me in this life. Screw men are the sky. I want to become that sky myself. 3. Back at the female educated youth dormitory, Zhou Xiaomei leaned over. So, did Jia Yuqing propose to you? I didn't say anything. Pulling out the chipped wooden box from under the bed, I opened it, and on top were a few patched clothes. Beneath them was a stack of letters, all from my mother, each urging me to hold on to Jia Yuqing, the educated man. I took out the letters and tore them up. one by one. Are you crazy? Zhou Xiaomei exclaimed. That's from your mother, from today on, I said, tossing the fragments into the stove and watching the flames lick them up. I won't listen to a single word she says. At the bottom of the trunk, there were two more items. One was a high school textbook I brought with me when I went to the countryside in 1972. Its corners now worn out. The other was a journal I secretly kept for 2 years. No, not a journal, but a ledger. It recorded the grain tickets, cloth tickets, and money Jia Yuqing borrowed from me over the past 2 years. It even detailed how I stayed up late knitting sweaters to sell and send money when his mother was sick. Total, 47.5 jin of grain tickets, 8 feet of cloth tickets, and 63 yuan in cash in 1975. This represented the entire savings of an ordinary educated youth over 2 years. I ran my fingers over the ledger's coarse cover and smiled. Well, at least in this lifetime, my investment in him ends right here. For Zhou Xiaomei looked at me as if I were insane. Shen Yulan, you're really not going to be with Jia Yuqing anymore. He's the most promising educated youth in our brigade. His father is a minor clerk in the county education bureau. I cut in. So what? Zhou Xiaomei was left speechless. I closed the wooden chest, took out the ledger and textbook separately, wrapped them in an old cloth, and stuffed them under my pillow. Xiaomei, I turned to look at her. I ask you, if you can clearly score 60 points on your own, but you insist on kneeling and begging someone to give you 59 points, aren't you cheap? Her face turned red. How can this be the same? Marriage is a woman's second rebirth. What if this rebirth lands you in a pigsty? I laughed. The sound dry, rolling in the mud all your life, and in the end, being slaughtered for meat. The whistle signaling the start of work sounded again. Urgent, hurry up. We'll get our work points docked if we're late, Zhou Xiaomei said, tugging at my arm. I pulled my arm free. I'm taking the day off. Are you crazy? You'll lose your perfect attendance bonus for the month. Then so be it. I lay back down in bed and pulled the thin blanket over my face. In the darkness, scenes from my past life played out like an old movie. In 1980, Jia Yuqing graduated from university and was assigned to a county middle school. Meanwhile, I was in the countryside, carrying my daughter with a high fever, walking 10 miles at night to the clinic. In 1985, he was promoted to lecturer and brought a female student home for extra lessons. I was in the kitchen chopping dumpling filling, and the knife sank 3 centimeters deep into the chopping board. In 1995, his affair with Lin Weiqing could no longer be hidden. When I asked for a divorce, he said, Shen Yulan, what would you live on without me? What could a housewife with only a middle school education possibly do? In 2005, he became a renowned scholar and said in an interview, my wife is a kind woman, but we lack common ground. That remained true until the day I died. The quilt was thrown back with a sudden jerk. Zhou Xiaomei stood by the bed, panting heavily. Jia Yuqing's mother is here. She's making a scene at the courtyard gate. 5. The June sun in northern Shaanxi was already scorching. A crowd had gathered at the courtyard gate, mostly aunties and grannies from the village, holding their breakfast bowls as they watched the commotion. In the center of the crowd, a lean woman in her 50s sat on the ground, slapping her thigh. She was Jia Yuqing's mother, Wang Xiuying. Ungrateful wretch, my son treated you so well. He provided for your food and clothing, and now that you've climbed up the social ladder, you want to ditch my Yuqing. I stood inside the threshold, coldly watching her performance. It was the same in my previous life. 3 months before the wedding, she came to cause trouble 3 times, once accusing me of seducing her son, another time claiming I stole her family's grain, and the last time, she just lay on the ground accusing me of pushing her. Every time she made a scene, Jia Yuqing would come to me with a show of helplessness. Yulan, look, my mother is so old, just swallow your pride, will you? Once we get married, she'll settle down. I swallowed my pride for 30 years. I bent so low my spine curved, and I could never straighten up again. Auntie Wang, I said, producing the account book, you claim Jia Yuqing provided for my food and clothing, but the grain ration book is at your house. I paid 15 jin of grain coupons and 8 yuan for meals every month. The brigade accountant has the records. You say I'm climbing the social ladder. My parents are both working professionals. My brother is in the military. Jia Yuqing's father is just a temporary clerk who got regularized. And you don't even have a job. Who's climbing whose ladder? The crowd buzzed. Wang Xiuying clearly hadn't expected me to retort. She froze for a moment, then wailed even louder. You're lying. My Yuqing is an educated person. He's going to go to university and become an official. How could someone like you, a mere farmhand, possibly be worthy of him? Not worthy, I nodded. So I'm not worthy. You find someone who is. After saying that, I turned around to go back inside. Stop right there. Wang Xiuying got up and rushed over, grabbing my arm. You're not leaving until you explain yourself. You've wasted 2 years of my son's youth. How are you going to compensate for that? Her nails dug into my flesh, causing sharp pain in my previous life. I was afraid of her. Afraid of my future mother-in-law, and afraid of ruining my reputation. Now I glanced down at her hand with bulging veins and suddenly laughed. Then, I opened my throat and shouted with all the strength I had, "Help, someone's hitting. The future mother-in-law is trying to kill her daughter-in-law." A sharp, piercing sound tore through the quiet morning of the educated youth settlement. Wang Xiuying was so startled she let go. Seizing the chance, I took 2 steps back and rolled up my sleeve. 4 vivid red welts were clearly visible on my forearm. You all saw that. I raised my arm and turned in a circle. I'm not even married into their family yet, and my future mother-in-law is already trying to beat me to death. If I actually married him, would I even survive? No one understands the ins and outs of the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law dynamic better than women from the countryside. Immediately, whispers and murmurs spread through the crowd. Oh my, that was far too harsh. If she's like this before the wedding, what will she be like after? She's officially part of the family. What if the girl's parents find out? Wang Xiuying's face turned ashen. You're slandering me. I just lightly pulled you. Can a light pull cause bleeding? I rolled down my sleeve. Aunt Wang, isn't that why you came today? To force me into agreeing to marry? Let me be clear. I stared into her eyes, enunciating each word. Even if all the men in the world were dead, I, Xin Yulan, would never marry into your Jia family. 6. Wang Xiuying was persuaded to leave by a few aunties who couldn't stand by and watch. She was still muttering curses as she left, but her momentum had weakened. The crowd dispersed, and the youth camp returned to tranquility. Zhou Xiaomei brought me a basin of cold water, soaked a towel, and handed it to me. Wipe it, your arm is bleeding. I didn't take the towel but scooped water directly from the basin to wash my face. The icy water stung my cheeks, but my mind was unusually clear. Xiaomei, can you do me a favor? I shook the water droplets off my hand. Go to the brigade office and ask for a 3-day sick leave for me. 3 days, the captain definitely won't approve. Just say I was injured by my future mother-in-law and need to go to the clinic for an examination. I paused. By the way, find out about this year's quota for returning to the city. Zhou Xiaomei widened her eyes. Are you really going to fight for it? What else am I supposed to do? I gazed at the endless stretch of lush slopes in the distance. Stay here. Wait for Jia Yuqing to go off to university. Wait for his mother to come make a scene every other day. Wait until I've worn myself into a haggard old woman, only for him to kick me to the curb once he's made something of himself. She fell silent. After a long pause, she said in a low voice, but Yulan, our brigade only has 1 spot this year. The Jia family has already pulled strings. You can't win against that. I'll fight for it even if I can't win. I walked into the room, felt under the pillow for that cloth bundle, and pulled out the textbook. At the very least, I need to show everyone, I'm not some pushover they can just walk all over. After Zhou Xiaomei left, I opened my high school Chinese textbook. The pages were yellowed, and the handwriting was faint. When I went to the countryside in 1972, I cried as I stuffed these books into my luggage. My mother said, "What are you bringing these for? Work hard down there and try to get married and return to the city soon. Marry and return to the city." This was the only path many female educated youths could see in that era. But why should it be so? I gently touched the page of record of Yeyang Tower and softly recited, "Worry before the world worries. Rejoice after the world rejoices." As I read on, the tears began to fall. It wasn't sorrow, but hatred. I hated my past self for being so foolish, for believing the poisonous lie that a woman's virtue lies in her lack of talent, for believing the falsehood that marrying a good man is the ultimate success. Sister Yulan, a timid voice came from outside the door. I wiped away my tears and saw a slender figure. It was Xiaochaoli from the next room, who had just turned 17 this year, and arrived half a year after us. What's the matter? Li Xiaochao twisted the hem of her shirt, hesitating for a long moment before finally speaking. I overheard what you said to Sister Xiaomei. I want to study too. Can I join you? I was stunned. I knew how Li Xiaocao's story ended in my past life. In 1976, she married the village party secretary's intellectually disabled son in exchange for a permit to return to the city. In 1978, she died from a postpartum hemorrhage after giving birth. Do your parents approve? I asked. Her eyes welled up. In his letter, my father said I should find a good family here in the countryside, but I don't want to end up like my sister, married and beaten every day. Looking at her frail shoulders, I remembered the invisible blows I had endured in my past life at the Jia household, come here, I said, shifting over. Sit, I only have one set of textbooks, we'll have to share. 7. That afternoon, Zhou Xiaomei returned. She brought back 2 pieces of news. First, my leave request was approved. Upon hearing my in-laws had beaten me, the team leader frowned, granted me 3 days off, and muttered, the Jia family has really gone too far, the matter of returning to the city quota. I overheard the brigade accountant talking to the secretary, Zhou Xiaomei. Whispered, this year, the county allocated 4 quotas to our commune, and our brigade gets 1, but Jia Yuqing's father has already greased the wheels, it's practically a done deal. Practically a done deal means it's not completely settled yet, I said, but what do we have to compete with them? Zhou Xiaomei exclaimed anxiously, Jia Yuqing is a high school graduate, has excellent work performance, and can write articles. I also graduated from high school. I opened the textbook. As for work performance, I've never taken a day off in these 3 years, and I was even awarded active worker last year. When it comes to writing, I paused in my previous life. At least half of Jia Yuqing's early educated youth literature was rewritten by me. He always said, Yulan, your writing has flair, but it's useless for a woman to write these things. Help me revise them, and when I become famous, I'll share the credit with you. Credit in the end, he couldn't even be bothered to mention my name. Xiaomei, help me find some paper and a pen, I said. What are you up to? Writing materials. I looked out at the blazing sun. If we're going to fight, we should fight fairly. That evening, I sat at the con table and wrote 3 documents by the light of an oil lamp. One was an application for fair evaluation of returned city quotas, listing my labor hours over the past 3 years, awards received, and my initiative in organizing a literacy class for educated youth. Another was a report on Comrade Jia Yuqing's family background and the source of the recommended quota. I didn't directly report him, just objectively reflected on his father's activities. The 3rd letter was a personal one to my parents in my past life. I never wrote this letter, because Jia Yuqing said, don't worry your family, I can handle it. This time, I wrote with deliberate care, to my dear parents, with respect. Your daughter is doing well here in northern Shaanxi, however, regarding the matter of marriage, after careful consideration, I have decided to end my romantic relationship with Comrade Jia Yuqing. There are 3 reasons. First, our values are incompatible. Second, his mother's conduct is improper. Third, I do not wish to rely on another person for my return to the city. Here, I paused. The flame of the kerosene lamp flickered, reflecting the still wet ink on the letter paper. Finally, I added a line, your daughter understands your expectations, but life is long, and I wish to walk a part of it on my own. Even if I cannot bring honor to the family, at the very least, I will not bring shame to the Shin household. Inscription, unfilial daughter Yulan, June 13, 1975. When I finished, my fingers were blistered from the pen. Xiaochaoli has fallen asleep with her face down, her textbook open to the page of Tingwang Pavilion. Even in old age, should one's spirit not remain strong, even in poverty, should one's resolve not stay firm, never losing the ambition of reaching the clouds, I gently closed the book. Outside the window, the moon rose, casting its cold, clear light over the gullied and ravaged expanse of the Lus Plateau. In my past life, I watched this same moon for a lifetime, from youth to white hair, from hope to despair. In this life, I will leave these mountain valleys behind on my own. 3 days later, I returned to work after my leave. The wounds on my arm had scabbed over, resembling 4 ugly centipedes. The team looked at me with a mix of emotions, sympathy, curiosity, and a touch of schadenfreude. In the rural areas of 1975, it was extremely rare for a girl to stand up to her future mother-in-law. Jia Yuqing never showed up. It said that his mother fell ill after returning home, so he took leave to go back to the county to take care of her. Zhou Xiaomei secretly told me, Jia Yuqing had someone pass a message, saying that you should take care of yourself. I laughed. That's great. He finally dropped the act. During a break from work, I went to the brigade headquarters to submit the materials. The accountant was a middle-aged man in his 40s. He glanced at it when he took it, and his eyebrows furrowed so tightly they could crush a fly. Comrade Shin Yulan, I'm just reporting the facts, I said. As for how it's assessed, I trust the organization will make a fair decision. He hesitated, then sighed. You're too young to understand. Am I being naive? In my past life, I was too well-behaved for my own good. So well-behaved that no one remembered my name when I died. As we were finishing up for the day, the team leader called me over. Xiao Shen, about your application. He puffed on his pipe, the smoke curling around him. The team has discussed it. The slots for returning to the city are still allocated based on overall performance. Comrade Jia Yuqing has the advantage of being educated. And his family situation is genuinely difficult, Captain, I interrupted him. My father is bedridden due to a work-related injury, my mother has rheumatism, and my brother's fate in the army is uncertain. Does that count as hardship? He was choked with words. I know the spot has already been pre-assigned. I smiled. I won't make things difficult for you. I only ask one thing. Deliver the materials I submitted to the commune intact. If the commune also believes Comrade Jia Yuqing is more suitable, I have no complaints. The captain stared at me for a long time. Finally, he tapped the pipe on the sole of his shoe. You, girl, you're not quite the same as usual. Yeah, things have changed. How could someone who has died once still be the same? 9 In the end, the captain still submitted my materials on the 4th morning. The commune sent down 2 people, 1 man and 1 woman, the man surnamed Zhang, in his 40s, wearing black-framed glasses, the woman surnamed Chen, in her early 30s, with short hair, looking very capable. The investigation took place at the team headquarters, with separate interviews. When it was my turn, Comrade Chen spoke first. Comrade Xin Yulan, do you have evidence for the situation you reported in your materials? I slid the ledger across the table. Here's a detailed record of all the money and grain Jia Yuqing borrowed from me over the past 2 years. Every entry has the date and the reason. The largest sum was last October. He said his mother was seriously ill and needed medicine, so he borrowed $20. That was my entire life savings. Comrade Chen leafed through the pages, his brow furrowing deeper with each one. As for the matter of the recommendation quota, I've only heard that his father is active. I spoke calmly, but for an ordinary clerk in the County Education Bureau to secure a return quota for his son among hundreds of educated youths, that's already abnormal in itself. Comrade Zhang pushed his glasses up and said, Comrade Xin Yulan, are you questioning the fairness of the organization? No. I looked at him. I'm asking for the fairness of the organization. The room fell silent for a few seconds. Comrade Chen asked again, you haven't been home for 3 years. Don't your parents miss you? Of course they do. I answered honestly, but I don't want to trade my marriage for the chance to return to the city. If I go back by marrying someone, I'll always feel inferior for the rest of my life. But Xiao Shen, Comrade Zhang's tone softened a bit. The reality is that for female educated youth, marriage is indeed a way to return to the city. You're 21 now. And if you wait any longer, if I wait, I'll take the college entrance exam. I interrupted him. Both of them were stunned. Gaokao, Comrade Chen repeated, it's been suspended for 8 years. It will be restored, I said, my voice soft but firm. The country needs talent. It can't be suspended forever. Saying this, I was even startled myself. It was 1975, and the Gaokao would only be restored 2 years later. Saying such things could easily get me labeled as having problematic political awareness, but Comrade Chen didn't argue. She stared at me for a long time, so long that my palms began to sweat. How were your grades in high school? She asked abruptly. I ranked 3rd in my class at graduation, I said. Chinese and math were my best subjects. I've kept my textbooks with me all 3 years in the countryside, reviewing them whenever I had time. She nodded and said nothing more. Before the conversation ended, Comrade Zhang suddenly asked, your partner, Comrade Jia Yuqing, I hear he's also very studious. Yes, I paused. So he should return to the city on his own merits, not through family connections. It's unfair to him and to the other educated youth. 10. The investigation team stayed in the village for 2 days. During those 2 days, the atmosphere at the educated youth outpost was strange and tense. Some people stole glances at me, while others deliberately avoided me. Only Li Xiaochao still came to read with me every day. She didn't know many characters, so I started by teaching her the phonetic alphabet. Sister Yulan, do you really think the college entrance exam will be reinstated? She asked tentatively. It will, I said with absolute certainty. And when it happens, it won't be about family background or connections. It'll be about your score, and your score alone. A flicker of hope lit up her eyes, then faded. But I didn't even finish junior high. Then start learning now, I said, opening the textbook. Learn 10 new characters a day. That's 3,600 in a year. In 2 years, you'll have caught up on the entire junior high curriculum. She bit her lip and nodded firmly. On the morning of the 3rd day, the investigation team left. In the afternoon, Jia Yuqing returned from the county. He went straight to the female educated youth dormitory, his face ashen. Zhou Xiaomei tried to stop him, but he shoved her aside. Xin Yulan, we need to talk. Under the old locust tree outside the courtyard, he got straight to the point. Why did you go and make a scene at the commune? I was just reporting the facts, I said, leaning against the tree trunk. What? Is it only your family that's allowed to pull strings? Well, I can't fight for what's fair. Do you even know what fairness is? He sneered. My dad went to great lengths, begging and bribing, just to get this spot, and you think you can ruin it with a single careless remark, so you admit it was bought with bribes. He faltered, the setting sun stretched his shadow long, and on the face that once made my heart race, there was now only anger and impatience. That's exactly how it was in my past life. Every time I voiced a disagreement, he'd look at me with that expression, as if I was just being unreasonable. Yulan, do we really have to be like this? His tone softened as he took a step forward. I know my mother was in the wrong before, and I apologize on her behalf, but about getting married, could you think it over again, once I get into university? I promise to bring me back to the city. I finished his sentence for him. And then what? You'll be studying in the provincial capital while I stay in this county town taking care of your mother. Then in 4 years, when you get your job assignment, I'll just tag along as your dependent. His mouth opened, but no words came out because I had seen right through his entire scheme. Jia Yuqing, let's not mince words. I straightened up. You don't love me, you never have. You just wanted a free caretaker, a fool who could look after your mother and make you look like the devoted, loyal son. That's not true, he protested urgently. My feelings are genuine in your desire to use me. I laughed. Too bad, a fool only needs to die once to wise up. His expression changed slightly. What do you mean by that? I didn't explain, just said, for the return quota. Let's each rely on our own abilities. If you're really capable, make the commune think you're more deserving to go back than me. After saying that, I turned to leave. Shen Yulan, he shouted from behind, you'll regret this. How long can you endure in the countryside as a woman? By the time you're old and past your prime, you won't even be able to find a husband. I stopped in my tracks and turned to look at him. The last ray of the setting sun fell on his face, youthful and handsome, yet cruelly cold. Jia Yuqing, I whispered. Even if I end up alone for the rest of my life, it would be better than being with you. 11 A week later, the commune sent a notice. The results of the urban return quota evaluation were announced. Neither I nor Jia Yuqing got one. When the brigade broadcast the announcement, the entire educated youth point was in an uproar. How could that be? Neither of the two front-runners got it. Then who got the spot? The team leader, holding his pipe between his teeth, recited expressionlessly, after deliberation by the commune, it has been decided that this year's return to the city quota is awarded to Comrade Li Xiaoqiao. On account of her being the youngest, coming from the most difficult family circumstances, and her own active pursuit of progress, everyone was stunned, including Xiaoqiao herself. She was standing right next to me, holding her textbook, completely frozen in shock. Me, her voice trembled. I squeezed her hand, it was ice cold. After the meeting, Yuqing Jia was the first to rush over, her eyes red. Did you do this? You couldn't get it, so you deliberately ruined my chance. Do you think I have any say in the commune's decision? I said, looking at him calmly. Those documents of yours, he said through gritted teeth, you must have fabricated them to frame me. The documents are all factual, I said. Besides, the fact that the commune chose neither you nor me proves the organization sees things clearly. You relied on connections, and my motives were impure. Neither of us is as upright and honorable as that honest, dutiful young comrade from a poor family. He was shaking with rage, his fists clenched so tight his knuckles cracked. Zhou Xiaomei quickly pulled me away. Come on, don't pay attention to him. That night, Li Xiaoqiao crept into my bed with a pillow, crying softly, Sister Yulan, I took your spot. Nonsense. I patted her back. This is what you deserve, but you need it more than I do. What I need is fairness, not charity, I said, staring at the pitch-black ceiling. And Xiaoqiao, you must remember, this opportunity wasn't something you snatched away. The commune gave it to you because they saw you were truly in need, and truly decent. She cried even harder. I held her, as if holding my past self, the version of me who believed her only path was through marriage, who felt utterly insignificant, reduced to dust. When you get to the city, don't be in a rush to marry, I said. Find a job, save your money, and if you get the chance, keep studying. In this life, a woman can only rely on herself. She nodded vigorously, her tears soaking into my shoulder. 12 After the spot was finalized, Jia Yuqing dropped all pretense of civility with me at the educated youth outpost. He publicly accused me of biting the hand that failed to feed me and said I was too calculating to be a good match. No one spoke up because everyone knew, the numbers in that ledger don't lie, and everyone saw how Wang Xiuying was throwing a tantrum instead. I began preparing for something else. Are you transferring to your grandmother's place, Zhou Xiaomei widened her eyes. It's even more remote than here, and a cross-county transfer. how difficult that is. It's got to be done, even if it's hard. I packed my meager belongings. If I stay here, Jia Yuqing and his mother will never let me be. That was the honest truth even in my past life. After we were married, Wang Shuiying would find fault with me constantly. Now that the wedding's fallen through, she'll be even more relentless. But what about your grandmother? Does your mother agree? To this, she disagreed. I smiled, but this time, I'm not listening to her. My mother's reply arrived the day before yesterday. The thick 4-page letter was half scolding me for being unreasonable and half urging me to make up with Xiaojia right away. The most important thing for a woman in her life is to find a support. You're 21 already. If you keep being picky, no one will want you. I burned the letter, along with all the advice she had sent over the years. I burned them together. I submitted the transfer request, and the captain quickly approved it. He was eager to get rid of this trouble as soon as possible. Xiao Shen, now that you're in a new place, you should rein in that temper of yours, he said, his words laced with implication. You won't always be this lucky. I understood what he meant. Lucky maybe, but more than anything, it was my determination to go all out. The night before I left, I went to Xiao Chao Li's new dormitory. The team had arranged a single room for her to pack her luggage. Sister Yulan, she saw me and her eyes welled up with tears again. Don't cry. I handed her a cloth bag. There's 20 yuan and 10 jin of grain coupons inside. When you get to the city, settle in first and don't hold back. I can't accept this. Consider it a loan, I said. Pay me back when you get a job. She hugged the cloth bag, tears falling. Sister Yulan, will I ever see you again? Yes. I wiped her tears. When the college entrance exams resume, let's both apply to the same university and be classmates. She nodded emphatically, as if making a vow. Stepping out of her room, I saw the full moon. The moonlight bathed the Lus Plateau, this land that has held me captive through lifetimes. But this time, the choice to leave was my own. 13. The procedures for the inter-county transfer took half a month. During this time, there was another uproar at the Jia Yuqing household. Wang Shuiying came to scold me, calling me guilty of conscience and ashamed to face people. Upon hearing that I was leaving, I said in front of the whole village, Auntie Wang, if you keep causing trouble, I'll report you to the County Women's Federation for persecuting female educated youth. Do you still want your son's future? She was so scared that she never came back. On July 18, 1975, I boarded a tractor heading to the neighboring county. My luggage consisted of just a broken wooden box, containing a few clothes, a set of textbooks, and a pair of 1,000-layer cloth shoes my grandmother sent the year before last. Her eyes were bad, and she had swollen hands from sewing the soles in my previous life. I never wore those shoes because Jia Yuqing called them tacky. Now, I'll put it right on top. The tractor puttered along, kicking up clouds of dust from the dirt road. Zhou Xiaomei ran out after me and pressed 2 boiled eggs into my hand. For the road, thank you, I said, giving her hand a squeeze. Take care of yourself. If we get the chance, let's take the college entrance exams together. Her eyes welled up, and she nodded firmly. The car drove a long way off. When I looked back, I could still see that row of earthen houses at the educated youth settlement, the old locust tree, and the place I once thought would trap me for a lifetime. Goodbye. This time, I will not look back. 14. Grandma's place was in the Red Flag Brigade of Willow Grove Commune. It was even more remote than where we'd been before, but the scenery was beautiful with clear waters and green mountains. When she saw me, my 70-year-old grandmother was stunned for a long moment. Then she pulled me into a tight hug. Lon, my dear, she said, how did you get so thin? She carried the faint, clean scent of soapberries, exactly as I remembered from my past life. The last time I saw Grandma in my previous life was in 1982. By then, her mind was already fading. She held my hand and said, Lon, don't ever settle. Don't be like your grandma, spending a lifetime living under a man's thumb. I didn't understand it then. Now I do. Grandma, I'm here to stay with you, I said, my voice choked with emotion. Good, good, she said, wiping her tears. I'm just glad you're here. Your mother, bless her heart, was so set on you marrying some educated man. Those scholarly types have too many schemes. We don't need to reach for such lofty branches. On my first night staying there, Grandma rummaged through every chest and cupboard before finally pulling a small tin box from inside the king's storage cavity. Here, you keep this, she said, pressing it into my hands. Your grandfather left it. It was meant to be your mother's dowry, but she insisted on a love match and ended up with that. She didn't finish her sentence, but I understood. My mother was also an educated youth back then, and she married my father, a so-called progressive young man. And how did that turn out? A complete mess. I opened the tin box. Inside were a few odds and ends, $2 silver, an old fountain pen, And a small red booklet. I opened the red booklet and froze. Is that the 1973 edition of the College Entrance Exam Review Guide? Although it's obsolete, the knowledge inside is still valuable. Your grandpa used to say that scholars should always keep reading. Granny stroked my head. Lon, if you want to take the exam, go ahead. Granny will support you. I held the yellowed review guide, and tears finally fell. In my previous life, I missed out. In this lifetime, I will make it a reality. Outside the window, the chorus of summer night insects swelled and surged. A new life has begun. 15. The Red Flag Brigade was even poorer than I had imagined. Grandma's house was a 3-room mud brick hut. The walls were badly peeling, and the thatched roof was so sparse it must have leaked every time it rained. Inside, aside from a Kong bed, a rickety table, and 2 wooden chests, there was no other furniture. I'm sorry for the poor conditions, Grandma said, looking uneasy, when your mother came back. She thought the place was too shabby. She only stayed 1 night before leaving. It's not broken. I set down the wooden box. A place to sleep and food to eat. That's home. My grandmother's eyes reddened again. The first thing after settling in was to report to the brigade office. The captain of the Red Flag Brigade was surnamed Lou, around 50 years old, with a dark red complexion, and he spoke in a loud voice. After reading my introduction letter, he frowned. Why are they sending a youth educated in the countryside to us? Our team's youth point was already disbanded long ago. I won't be staying at the youth point, I said. I'll be staying at my grandmother's house and working like the other commune members. Then how will your work points be calculated? Whatever it should be, it will be, I said. I can work hard. Team leader Lou looked me up and down, clearly skeptical of my scrawny frame. He didn't say much, just waved a hand. All right, report for work tomorrow. You'll start with the women's team, weeding the fields. On the way home, I mulled over my plans for the future. It was late July, with 2 years and 3 months to go before the college entrance exams would be reinstated. In that time, I had 3 things to sort out. First, earn enough to feed myself and not rely entirely on Grandma. Second, find study materials. And third, steer clear of any potential trouble in their past life. Jia Yuqing started at the Worker Peasant Soldier University in the autumn of 1975. Lin Weiqing got involved with him in 1976. In this life, without my support, will their path still be smooth sailing? Dinner was cornmeal porridge and pickled vegetable chunks. Grandma scooped all the thicker corn bits from the porridge into my bowl. You eat the hearty part, dear. Grandma will just have the broth. Let's split it half and half, I said, pushing the bowl back toward her. In the middle of their meal, a knock came at the courtyard gate. Standing outside was a woman in her 40s, with short hair cut just above her ears. She wore a faded blue cotton shirt and held a bowl in her hands. Auntie Shen, she said, I heard your granddaughter is visiting. We just made some flatbread at home. Please let her try some. Grandma quickly stood up. Oh, Teacher Li, you really shouldn't have. Teacher Li, I stood up, my gaze falling on her hands holding the bowl. Her knuckles were thick, her palms calloused, but her nails were clean, and the bowl was scrubbed white. This is my granddaughter, Shen Yulan, Granny introduced. Lon, this is Teacher Li Shuzhen from our team's elementary school. Hello, Teacher Li, I said respectfully, bowing. Li Shuzhen looked me up and down with a gentle gaze. You don't sound like a local, do you? I was sent down to northern Shaanxi for 3 years, just got transferred here, an educated youth. Huh, she nodded and handed me the bowl. Here, take it, fresh off the griddle. Still warm. Inside the bowl were 2 wheat flour pancakes. Even though they were mixed with cornmeal, in the countryside of 1975, this was considered a rare treat of fine grain. I didn't refuse. I thanked her and took it. Li Shuzhen didn't leave right away. She stood at the doorway chatting with Grandma. Auntie Shen, your granddaughter's arrival is perfect timing. The school is starting a literacy class this autumn, and we're short on helpers. If she's willing, she could come help after her work shifts. The production team would credit her with work points. My heart gave a little leap. A literacy class, I'm willing, I said, cutting in before Grandma could respond. Teacher Li, I've graduated high school. I can teach reading, writing, and arithmetic. Li Shuzhen smiled. That would be wonderful. But, aren't you an educated youth? Don't you want to return to the city? I do, I said honestly, but I want to earn my way back, not marry my way back. She studied me for a moment, her smile deepening. That's the spirit. Come find me at the school after work tomorrow. After seeing Li Shuzhen out, Grandma closed the door and lowered her voice. Lon, Teacher Li is a remarkable woman. Her husband used to teach at the county high school, but he passed away a few years back. She's raising 2 children on her own and still runs the literacy classes. Everyone in the brigade respects her, holding the still warm flatbread in my hand. A plan began to form in my mind. 16. The farm work in the Red Flag Brigade was a bit lighter than up. In northern Shaanxi, mostly dryland crops like corn and sorghum, not like the backbreaking work of building terraces over there, but the July sun was just as fierce on the first day of weeding. I followed behind the women's team, bent at the waist, inching forward row by row. Sweat stung my eyes, and my hands quickly blistered. New Sandan youth, you look so soft and tender. Think you can get used to this? Asked a woman in her 30s working beside me. I'll get used to it, I said through gritted teeth. I heard you were transferred from northern Shaanxi. How come? I didn't speak. Another voice chimed in. What else? He must have been unable to stay there anymore. I heard that. Rumors spread faster than the wind during the midday break. I sat on the embankment eating my steamed bun with cold water. Li Shuzhen came over with a basket and handed me a boiled egg. Here, take it to replenish your strength. Ms. Li, I can't. Just take it. She sat down beside me. I heard you didn't say a word all day, just kept your head down and worked. I nodded. Good. She peeled another egg. This place is small. The tiniest thing can be gossip for half a year. The more you explain, the more they'll latch onto it. Ignore them, and it'll blow over soon enough. Thank you, Teacher Li. Don't thank me, she said, looking at me. Shin Yulan, I've been watching you all morning. Your weeding posture is wrong. It's too strenuous. You need to sink your waist, bend your knees, and use leverage. She demonstrated as she spoke. I followed her instructions, and it immediately became much easier. Teacher Li, you really know a lot. I used to be an educated youth too, she said quietly. I came down in 1965, got married, and stayed here. I was stunned. Don't follow my path, she said, brushing the dirt off her hands. If you have the chance, you must go out and see the world. 17. The literacy class was held in an empty room next to the team headquarters. Most of the students were middle-aged and young women from the team, along with a few teenagers. The textbooks were compiled by Li Shuzhen herself, using old newspapers cut into small notebooks, with handwritten words and simple arithmetic. On my first visit, Li Shuzhen had me sit in and observe. She had a knack for teaching. She didn't start with political jargon, but with practical things like understanding work points and calculating grain rations. The women listened intently because once they learned, they could do their own calculations and wouldn't be easily cheated. Today, we'll learn the character for grain, Li Shuzhen wrote on the blackboard. The left part is rice, and the right part means good. Rice is a good thing, and good means just that. With grain, life is better. Someone in the audience chuckled. Teacher Li, I only have 20 gene left on my grain ration book this month. How is that better? So it's even more important to learn to read. Li Shuzhen smiled. Once you can read, you can understand policies, balance your accounts, and even teach your children. That's what good means. After class, she asked me, what do you think? It's great, I said sincerely. Starting with real-life situations is what makes people want to learn. Starting tomorrow, you'll teach arithmetic, she said. Begin with work point conversions, cloth and grain ration coupons. I nodded emphatically. That night, I prepared my lesson under the oil lamp. Grandma was sewing a shoe sole when she suddenly remarked, Teacher Li's husband has been gone for 8 years. So many people have urged her to remarry, but she refuses. She says she's determined to put her 2 children through school and keep the literacy class running. She's truly remarkable. Yes, she is, Grandma sighed. It's so hard being a woman. I didn't reply and went back to writing my lesson plan, but the thought in my mind grew clearer and clearer. 18. Mid-August, I received my first month's work points. Women's team full labor gets 7 points a day, but since I was just starting, I was calculated at 6. With the additional subsidy from the literacy class, I earned a total of 180 work points. Converted into grain, it amounted to 36 gene of corn and 8 gene of sorghum. Not much, but enough for my grandmother and me to have thin porridge. Li Shuzhen knew about my review. One day after class, she called me to her office and took out a few books from her drawer. These were left by my husband, she said, caressing the book covers. Self-study books for math, physics, and chemistry, from 1964. They're a bit old, but the basics haven't changed. I took them, feeling their weight. Teacher Li, this is too valuable. Books are wasted if they just sit there, she said. I see you reading late into the night after work every day. With that kind of drive, you'll definitely succeed, don't you think? I'm just daydreaming, I asked. The college entrance exam has been suspended for 8 years, she smiled. My husband used to say that a country needs to build, and it can't do without talent forever. The college entrance exam will be restored sooner or later. Just don't spread that around. My eyes welled up. Thank you, you're welcome. She looked out the window. my generation won't make it, but yours, there's still hope. 19. Early September. Zhou Xiaomei wrote a letter. The letter was thick and mentioned three things. First, Li Xiaoqiao has returned to the city and was assigned a job at the textile mill. She wrote to say thank you. Second, Jia Yuqing did manage to get into university after all, but not the original worker peasant soldier university in the provincial capital. Instead, it was a newly established May 7th university in a neighboring province, known for its short program and low academic prestige. I heard his father spent the family's entire savings from the past 10 years to secure that spot for him. His mother was so furious she fell seriously ill and is still bedridden. Third, Lin Weiqing has also been transferred. She's now working as a temporary substitute teacher at a primary school in the county town. Some say they've seen her corresponding with Jia Yuqing, but who knows if it's true. I finished reading the letter and burned it. Grandma asked, "Who's the letter from?" "An old teammate," I said someone got what was coming to them. Grandma didn't ask anything more. Late one night while preparing my lessons, I secretly drew up a timeline on the back of my teaching plan notebook. September 1975, December 1976, review all high school subjects while teaching literacy classes on the side to save money. 1977, await news of the college entrance exam and give it my all in the final sprint. 1978, start university. 1979, I stopped writing. In my previous life, 1979, I had already given birth to my daughter. That year, Jia Yuqing was promoted to assistant professor and began staying out all night. In this life, where will I be in 1979? I don't know, but it's definitely not at the Jia residence. 20. In late October, the Red Flag Brigade welcomed its first autumn rain. It rained for 3 days, making it impossible to work in the fields, and the literacy class was also cancelled. I was at home flipping through the book Li Shuzhen gave me and noticed there were many notes in the margins, delicate, small handwriting, which turned out to be Li Shuzhen's husband's. On one page of solid geometry, next to an example problem, it was written, "Shuzhen says she doesn't understand, diagrams are needed for explanation." On another page of chemical equations, it was noted, "This section can be linked to real-life examples, such as fermentation and pickling." I can almost picture it, a night many years ago, this very couple just like this, one lamp, 2 books, one speaking, one listening. Lawn. Grandma called to me from the other end of the Kong, "Teacher Li is here." I hurriedly climbed down from the Kong. Li Shuzhen was holding a tattered oil paper umbrella, her trouser legs soaked halfway up, clutching a cloth bundle to her chest. "Brought you something on this rainy day." Inside the cloth bundle were half a ream of paper, 2 bottles of ink, and an old but perfectly functional fountain pen. "This, my late husband used this," she said softly. "It's just sitting there unused. You take it for writing. When you're studying, the faintest ink is better than the strongest memory." I held the pen. Its barrel felt smooth and warm, as if it still retained its former owner's body heat. "Ms. Li, I don't know how to thank you. Study hard." She looked at me, her eyes holding a complex emotion. Study hard for me. For our whole generation who never got the chance to go to school. The rain continued to fall, drumming against the thatched roof. The fountain pen lay heavy in my palm, like a legacy being passed on. 21. In the winter of 1975, a heavy snowfall hit the Red Flag Brigade. My daily routine settled into place. Working or teaching during the day, and reviewing at night. My grandmother kept the Kong warm, and I would study at the Kong table until midnight. Li Shuzhen would often come by, sometimes bringing a handful of roasted soybeans, other times a couple of baked sweet potatoes. She would check on my progress, help me with questions, and occasionally talk about the old days. "My husband was gone in 68, she said one night, out of the blue. Some said he had problematic ideas. They struggled against him for 3 days and 3 nights. On the morning of the 4th day, he was gone." I put down my pen. "I was 5 months pregnant with my youngest son at the time," she said calmly, as if recounting someone else's story. "I wanted to go with him, but I didn't dare, thinking of the child in my womb." "Mr. Li, so you see," she smiled, fine lines appearing at the corners of her eyes, "when you're alive, you have to look forward. Dying is easy, living is hard, but no matter how hard it gets, you have to live with dignity." I tightened my grip on the fountain pen. "I will," I said, "I'll make something of myself." Outside the window, the snow fell silently. The year 1975 was drawing to a close. That year, I left Jia Yuqing. I left the cage that had trapped my former life. This year, I met Li Shuzhen and held the pen that carried hope. This year, I was 21, with nothing, yet everything. because I knew the path was at my feet and this time I will walk it myself. 22. The spring of 1976 came unusually late. Even by March, the frozen ground in Hongqi Brigade had not fully thawed. In the morning, when we went to work, the shovel could only leave a white mark on the ground, but the popularity of the literacy class grew like wildfire. Teacher Shen, how do you write the character account? Is it pronounced the same as Teacher Shen? I calculate work points. If I earn 7 work points a day, and 2 work points equal 1 pound of corn, how many pounds of corn can I get for 35 work points? After class, the women surrounded me, asking questions all at once. They held small notebooks bound with straw paper, and when the pencil tips were too short to grip, they continued writing by attaching them to wooden sticks. Take it slow. One by one, I wiped the blackboard clean and started writing again. Li Shuzhen stood at the back of the classroom, arms crossed, smiling. Only after everyone had left did she walk over. Not bad, Shen Yulan. In just half a year, you've become Teacher Shen. It's because of your excellent teaching. I tidy up my lesson plans. Don't be modest, she helps me move the stool. Who among the aunts and sisters in the team doesn't give you a thumbs up when your name comes up? They all say Teacher Shen is patient, explains things clearly, and never looks down on them for being slow. I carefully put the chalk pieces into a small iron box, a keepsake from Li Shuzhen's late husband. Now mine. Teacher Li, I have an idea, I said. Just teaching reading and arithmetic isn't enough. Could we add a basic knowledge class? What kind of common sense? For example, how to prevent infant diarrhea, how to treat burns, and how to identify common wild vegetables and poisonous mushrooms. I paused. These are practical things that could save lives. Li Shuzhen's eyes lit up. That's a great idea. I'll talk to Captain Liu and ask him to borrow some materials from the clinic. I nodded, contemplating another matter in my mind. In the summer of 1976, in my past life, a flash flood hit the Hongqi Brigade, washing away the homes of 2 families. No one died, but a child had their leg crushed. Due to improper treatment, they were left with a permanent disability. If only some first aid knowledge had been taught in advance. What are you thinking about? Li Shuzhen patted my shoulder. It's nothing. I snapped back to reality. Oh, right, Teacher Li, you mentioned the county library last time. Yes, I inquired. She pulled out a small notebook from her cloth bag. It's possible to borrow books, but we need a letter of introduction from the unit and a deposit. I'll figure it out. She always says, I'll figure it out. And she really does manage to find a way. 23. In early April, Grandma's rheumatism flared up again. Her knees were swollen like steamed buns, and she couldn't get out of bed. I took 3 days off. I looked after her during the day, and at night, after she fell asleep, I would read by the light of an oil lamp. Li Shuzhen brought over a packet of herbs, mugwort and safflower, boiled them in water and used the steam for fumigation. It should help. While I was boiling the medicine, she sat by the Kong and chatted with my grandmother. Sister Shen, your granddaughter is quite promising. My grandmother sighed. It's just that I've held her back. Her mother wrote a letter the other day, saying she's arranged a match with someone from the county grain station, and she should go back to meet him. My hand faltered, and I almost knocked over the medicine pot. I'm not going, I said. I don't need a husband to put food on my table. Grandma was in tears, probably shaken by the letter from my mother. Lon, I know you've got spirit, but a woman in this life, she has to accept her fate. Accept your fate. Those 2 words again. In my past life, my mother said it, my grandmother said it, all women said it. It seems that from the moment a woman is born, there's only one path laid out for her: marry, bear children, serve her in-laws, endure until old age, and then pressure her own daughter to walk the same road. Grandma, I said, putting down the medicine jar, wiping my hands, and sitting on the edge of the Kong. Back then, why were you so insistent that Mom get an education? Grandma was taken aback. Well, wasn't it your grandfather who said that studying brings understanding? Yes, reading brings clarity. I took her hand. Reading taught me that a woman's place isn't just in the kitchen. Reading taught me that our nation's progress needs talent, regardless of gender. And reading taught me something else. I looked into her eyes, enunciating each word slowly and deliberately. Fate isn't something to be accepted, it's something to be changed. Grandma stared at me, stunned, tears caught in the creases of her wrinkles. Li Shuzhen quietly gave me a thumbs up. 24. In mid-April, the introduction letter and deposit were both arranged. Li Shuzhen asked her relatives in the county for help and borrowed 5 books from the library, 2 follow-up volumes of self-study series for mathematics, physics, and chemistry, 1 basic knowledge of Chinese, 1 political common sense, and 1, the 1973 edition of Supplementary Materials for the College Entrance Exam Review Outline. My hands were trembling by the time I got to the last one. This, you can actually borrow this. Found it in the library storage room. Li Shuzhen lowered her voice. Hurry up and look. Then return it right away. We'll be in trouble if anyone finds out. I understand. The current situation still makes such books sensitive. That night, I opened that copy of Supplementary Materials. The paper had yellowed, but the printing was clear. The example problems, key points, and even the predicted exam directions inside closely matched the actual questions from the 1977 college entrance exams. As I remembered them, I felt like I had struck gold. For the next half month, I was in a frenzy. I taught during the day and worked, then read until the early hours of the morning. If my eyes were bloodshot, I would soothe them with cold water. If my hands were frozen, I would warm them by tucking them into my chest for a while. Grandma's heart ached for me, but she didn't dare say anything. She knew it would be useless. Only Li Shuzhen would occasionally come to check on my progress. Seeing the dense calculations covering my scratch paper, she would fall silent for a long time before saying, "Take care of your health. If your health fails, you lose everything." One day in May, she brought news. The county is going to hold a worker peasant soldier student recommendation exam, with 2 spots allocated to each commune. She said, "It's not the official college entrance exam, but if you pass, you can go to the regional teachers' college for further training. Graduates are guaranteed job assignments." My heart skipped a beat. When sign-ups are at the end of June, and the exam is in early July, she looked at me. "Do you want to give it a try?" "I do, more than anything. This is my first real shot at an exam, but, Teacher Lee, do you think I can pass?" "Whether you pass or not, you won't know until you take it," she said. "But Shin Yulan, I have to remind you, this recommendation exam doesn't just look at your grades, it also considers your political conduct and peer evaluations. You're an educated youth, and an outsider here. I understand even if I come first, I might still be rejected due to my background," I said. "We still have to take the exam. Even if we don't make it, it's a good practice." Li Shuzhen smiled. "I knew you'd say that. I'll figure out the registration." Early June, Zhou Xiaomei wrote again. The letter was short but packed with information. Yulan, Jia Yuqing dropped out of school. Supposedly, he got into a fight and was expelled. Lin Weiqing lost her substitute teacher position too, as someone reported her for having questionable morals. Both of them are now in the county town, and they're said to be getting married soon. I folded the letter and put it away. My heart remained calm. In their past life, everything went smoothly for them. One became a scholar, the other an associate professor, stepping on me as their stepping stone to achieve boundless glory in this life. Without my support and sacrifices, they won't even be able to finish university. Karma is indeed a bitch, but I don't have time to gloat. In late June, the registration for the recommendation exam began. Li Shuzhen really had a way. She approached the commune's educational assistant, claiming that the Red Flag Brigade's literacy class had outstanding results and needed a cultured, educated youth to help summarize the materials and conveniently take the exam to test the teaching outcomes. The letter of introduction was obtained without a hitch. On the application form, I hesitated for a long time over the intended category of study section. There were 3 options: teacher training, agriculture and forestry, and medical and health sciences. In her previous life, Jia Yuqing had studied teacher training, later switched to administration, and climbed the ranks steadily. I picked up my pen and checked the box next to teacher training. It's not that I want to follow in his footsteps. I want to prove that if he can do it, so can I. And I can do it even better. 25 In early July, the exam was held at the county high school. Over 30 people sat in the examination hall, most of them educated youths in their early 20s, with a few local worker peasant soldier students among them. The invigilator handed out the papers with an impassive face, the air thick with the smell of nervous sweat. 3 subjects, Chinese, politics, and mathematics, were all completed in a single day. The questions were simpler than I had anticipated. The Chinese exam was a reading response to Serve the People, politics covered basic theory, and mathematics only went up to a junior high school level. But I know, it's the simple problems that really test the details. As I handed in my paper, a male educated youth next to me leaned over and asked, "Hey, how did you draw the auxiliary line for the last geometry problem?" I ignored him. "What are you pretending to be so noble for?" He walked away grudgingly. As I walked out of the exam room, Li Shuzhen was waiting for me at the door. "How did it go?" "Not bad," I said, "but whether I get admitted, that's hard to say." She patted my shoulder. "Do your best, and let fate take its course." During those 2 weeks waiting for the results, I continued working and teaching as Usual, only at night, while reading, would I occasionally lose focus if I pass the exam. I can leave the Red Flag Brigade and go study at the Regional Teachers College. It's not a full-fledged university, but it's a path forward, and if I don't, then I'll keep studying and wait for the college entrance exam at the end of July. The notice arrived, didn't get in. When Li Shuzhen told me the result, her tone was calm. 2 people were admitted, both local officials' children. You came in third. Third, so close, but then, she changed tack. The cultural and education assistant read your Chinese exam paper. He said your essay showed real depth of thought, and asked if you'd like to work as a correspondent at the commune broadcast station. It's a temporary position, but there's a chance it could become permanent. I was stunned. The broadcast station. If you do well, you'll gain writing experience and even get to see policy documents, Li Shuzhen said, looking at me. So, are you interested? I thought for a moment and shook my head. Why? She asked, surprised. Because my goal isn't to get a permanent position here. It's the college entrance exam, I said. The radio station work would definitely be busy and eat into my study time, and I don't want to be managed anymore. In my past life, I was managed for 30 years, getting married, having children, moving for my husband's job. Every single step was decided by someone else in this life. I'll make my own choices. Li Shuzhen was silent for a moment, then smiled. All right. You've got a mind of your own. She handed the notice back to me. Keep it as a memento. If it didn't work out this time, there's always a next. I took the thin sheet of paper. It bore my name, my score, and a small note. This comrade's political consciousness requires improvement. I laughed. Consciousness. My consciousness is about refusing to believe in fate, refusing to accept defeat, and refusing to back down. 26. In August, news of the Great Tangshan earthquake arrived. The entire nation was shocked. The Red Flag Brigade organized a donation drive for money and supplies. I donated 5 yuan myself, money I had saved from my literacy class stipend. When registering the donation, Captain Lu glanced at me. Xiao Shen, you're not exactly well off either. I'll do what I can, I said. He nodded and said nothing more, but the next day, he called me to the team office. The commune is organizing an earthquake relief propaganda team to go to various brigades to spread earthquake prevention knowledge. Our team recommends you for it. Me, you have experience teaching the literacy class, and people like listening to you, he said. It pays 10 work points a day, plus meals. I didn't hesitate. I'll do it. It wasn't for the work points, it's because I remember, back in 1976, there were a few minor earthquakes here in the fall. They didn't cause any injuries, but they created a lot of panic. If only we had been able to spread awareness in advance. The propaganda team consisted of 5 people, 3 commune cadres and 2 educated youth representatives. After 2 days of training, we started visiting the villages. I was in charge of explaining family earthquake emergency measures, how to reinforce houses, prepare emergency kits, and how to take cover during an earthquake. It was all common knowledge for future generations, but in 1976, it felt incredibly fresh and novel. The commune members in the audience went from being half-hearted at the start to diligently taking notes. Later on once, after a talk in a neighboring village, an elderly woman took my hand and said, "Dear, you said we should put a thick quilt under the bed. How much cotton would that take? My family only has one. Old clothes will do too. Just roll them up for padding," I said. The main point is cushioning. It doesn't have to be cotton. She left, profusely thanking me. Old Chen, the commune cadre leading the team, was in his 50s. After hearing me give a few talks, he pulled me aside privately and asked, "Comrade Xiao Shen, are you an educated youth?" "Yes, I am." "What year did you graduate?" 1972. He nodded. That was well explained, clear and thorough. "Have you ever thought about staying on to work at the commune?" "Thank you, Director Chen, but I'd still like to continue my studies," I replied with a smile. Declining the offer, he paused for a moment, then smiled. "That's the spirit. All right. Prepare well. The country needs young people like you." September, the campaign ended. I received 120 work points, along with a banner that read Advanced Propagandist. My grandmother hung the banner in the most prominent spot in the main hall, telling everyone, "My granddaughter earned this." 27. In early October, a piece of news began to circulate quietly. The tone on the radio changed, the articles in the newspapers changed. Even the political lessons in the literacy classes were altered. Li Shuzhen came one evening, her expression grave. "The weather may be about to change," she said. I didn't say a word, but my heart was pounding. I know what she's talking about. I also know that after this upheaval, spring will come. In late October, the official document was issued. The entire nation was in a complex state of emotion. There was grief, confusion, but also a faint sense of anticipation. In November, The literacy classes were suspended for half a month when I saw Li Shuzhen again. She had lost weight, but her eyes were bright. Shen Yulan, she said, the opportunity you've been waiting for might be coming. You mean, wait, she said, pressing my hand, just wait a little longer. Wait, I've been waiting for 2 years. A few more months won't make a difference. 28. The winter of 1976 was exceptionally bitter, yet the literacy class of the Red Flag Brigade was starting up again this time. They weren't just teaching reading and arithmetic, but also new songs and articles. The classroom was packed, and the coal stove glowed a fiery red standing before the blackboard. I wrote the subject of the New Year's first lesson. Spring. Chun is the first of the 4 seasons. Tian is the vault of heaven above. With spring's arrival, all things come back to life, and hope begins to grow. Below, men and women, young and old, followed along in recitation. Spring. Hope begins to grow. Outside the window, the north wind howled, but I know that after the wind blows, the frozen ground will crack, and the grass shoots will push through, just like this country, just like my life. The coldest winter has already passed. 29. The spring of 1977 began in a late cold snap. By March, the ditches of Hongqi Brigade were still covered with ice shards, but inside the literacy class, it was warm and bustling. After class, Li Shuzhen pulled me to the back of the classroom, her voice barely above a whisper. There are rumors. What's the buzz? There, discussing the resumption of the college entrance exam. My heart skipped a beat, and the chalk in my hand snapped. Is the news reliable? My younger brother works at the provincial education department, and he hinted at it in his letter. Li Shuzhen's eyes sparkled with excitement, although there's no official document yet, but it's coming soon. I took a deep breath, and the cold air stung my lungs. 2 years and 3 months, from the summer of 1975 until now. This is the day I've been waiting for. How's your review going? She asked. I've finished the second round of math, physics, and chemistry, and I'm memorizing Chinese and politics every day, I said. It's just English. Whether English was included in the 1977 college entrance exam varied by province. In my memory, our province treated it as a reference score, not included in the total. But what if I can't help you with English? Li Shuzhen frowned. There isn't a single person in the entire commune who knows English. It's okay, I said. Focus on the big things and let the small ones go. She patted my shoulder. Hang in there. For the last few months, hang in there, these 2 words became my entire belief. In the spring of 1977. 30. In April, my grandmother's condition worsened. Rheumatism had turned into arthritis, and her legs were swollen and shiny, making it impossible for her to get out of bed. The village barefoot doctor came, prescribed a few doses of traditional Chinese medicine, and shook his head, saying, "She's too old, it's hard to recover." I took a long leave to care for her around the clock. My days were spent brewing medicine, bathing her, and cooking. At night, after she fell asleep, I'd read by the oil lamp. Sometimes, I'd nod off over my book, jolting awake to find the lamp's flame nearly gone. Li Shuzhen came by every day, sometimes bringing a bit of brown sugar, other times a few eggs. You can't keep this up, she said. If you ruin your health, how will you take the exam? I can manage my ass. She rarely cursed. Look at your dark circles, your face is so thin it's just bones. I didn't say anything, continuing to feed my grandmother the medicine. After feeding her the medicine, my grandmother held my hand, tears streaming down her face. Lon, I'm a burden to you. No burden, I wiped her tears. You raised me when I was young, and I will take care of you in your old age. It's only right, but you have exams. I can pass. I gripped her hand tightly. I definitely will. These words were meant for her, but also for myself. By the end of April, my grandmother's condition had stabilized slightly. I resumed my review, but my time was fragmented. I memorized politics while boiling medicine, solved math problems during the fire, and only late at night could I study systematically. One late night, I was stuck on a problem in analytic geometry, unable to solve it no matter what. After filling 3 sheets of scrap paper, tears suddenly fell. It's not about feeling wronged, it's fear. The fear that even if I try again, I still won't pass. The fear that all my effort will have been for nothing. I'm afraid in this lifetime, I still won't escape that cycle. The oil lamp sputtered with a crackle, a wick flower blooming in the flame. I wiped away my tears and pulled out a fresh sheet of paper. Let's calculate again. 31. In May, another letter arrived from Zhou Xiaomei. This time, it wasn't a letter, but a parcel. Inside the parcel were 2 items. A handwritten copy of English 900 sentences, the characters neat and orderly, and a letter. Yulan, I hear you're planning to take the university entrance exam. This book was brought over from Shanghai by a friend. It's a bit old, but it covers all the basics. Keep it up, and make us educated youth proud. I opened the handwritten book. The paper was rough, but every letter was written with great care. On the last page, Zhou Xiaomei added a line, Jia Yuqing and Lin Weiqing got married and had 3 tables set up in the county town. I heard Lin Weiqing is pregnant, and Jia Yuqing is working as a temporary laborer in the county construction team. Life is tight for them. I tore out this page and threw it into the stove. The flames rose and quickly turned to ash. Their misfortune brings me no pleasure. It just feels distant, like something from a past life. 32 Mid-June. The official news arrived. Li Shuzhen returned from the commune meeting, called me to her house, closed the door, and her voice trembled. It's settled. The college entrance exam will be reinstated this year. Registration in October. Exams in December. I sat stiffly on her broken rattan chair. I knew it was coming, but when it actually happened, it still felt like a dream. The enrollment criteria have been relaxed, she said rapidly. Workers, farmers, educated youth, demobilized soldiers. The age limit has been extended to 30. Marital status is no longer a factor. Political review now focuses mainly on personal conduct. Each clause was more astonishing than the last. What subjects are being tested? Division of Liberal arts and sciences. Liberal arts subjects include politics, Chinese, mathematics, history, and geography. Science subjects include politics, Chinese, mathematics, physics, and chemistry. Foreign languages are for reference only. My mind raced. I studied science, physics, and chemistry are no problem. I'm confident in mathematics, and Chinese and politics are my strengths. Application materials. I stood up, need a unit certificate, a political review form, and, don't panic, Li Shuzhen held me back. I'll take care of these, you just do one thing. She stared into my eyes, study like crazy. 33 From that day on, I kicked into high gear. I slept no more than 4 hours a day. When I got drowsy, I'd splash cold water on my face. When I got hungry, I'd gnaw on a steamed corn bun. As Grandma's condition improved slightly and she could slowly move about on her own, she would sit on the heated brick bed, helping me organize my materials, carefully smoothing out and stacking the sheets of scribbled draft paper one by one. Granny, you rest, I'm not tired. She wore reading glasses, her fingers trembling but earnest. My granddaughter is about to take the college entrance exam. I need to help. In early July, Li Shuzhen brought the application forms, a thick stack, requiring personal information, family details, and the chosen majors. I wrote without hesitation in the application preferences column. First choice, Peking University, Department of Mathematics. Second choice, Fudan University, Department of Physics. Third choice, Provincial College of Finance and Economics, Department of Accounting. Li Shuzhen took a sharp breath. Peking University. If you're going to apply, aim for the best, I said. If I don't get in, I won't have any regrets. She looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. All right, that's the spirit. The political review form required stamps from both the production brigade and the commune level. Captain Liu was straightforward. Xiao Shen, do your best in the exam and bring glory to our red flag brigade. But things got stuck at the commune. The clerk in charge of stamping, a man in his 30s, looked at my form for a long time. Shen Yulan, oh, the educated youth who refused to go to the broadcasting station. I felt a sinking feeling in my heart. Comrade, is there a problem? Well, the problem is, he drawled, your family background is fine, and your personal conduct is acceptable, but this university preference of yours, Peking University, aren't you reaching a bit too high? If the state allows it, I'm bold enough to apply, I said. Young man, you need to keep your feet on the ground. He slid the form back. Here's what we'll do. Change your preference to a provincial teacher's college or agricultural institute, and I'll stamp it for you. I stared at him. What if I don't change it? Then this chapter needs further review. Blatant harassment. Li Shuzhen was anxious on the side. Comrade Wang. Comrade Shen Yulan is our commune's literacy pioneer and propaganda model. She is fully qualified. Calm down, Teacher Li, said Officer Wang with a thin, insincere smile. I'm only thinking of what's best for her. Peking University isn't exactly easy to get into, is it? If she fails the exam, wouldn't that just be a wasted spot? I smiled slowly. I picked up the form and tore it to pieces right in front of him. What are you doing? He exclaimed, leaping to his feet. Since the commune won't approve it, I won't apply. I tossed the fragments into the trash, but I will write to the provincial admissions office about what happened today. Restoring the college entrance exam is a central policy. What right does the commune level have to alter candidates' wishes? His face changed. You trying to scare who? Is it a threat? You can try. I turned and left. Li Shuzhen ran after her. Yulan, how could you be so rash? Without the commune's seal, how are you going to register? I have a plan. 34 My plan was to go to the county seat, go directly to the county admissions office and report the situation truthfully. The person in charge of reception was a woman in her 50s, surnamed Zhao, wearing glasses. After I finished speaking, her eyebrows furrowed tightly. Is the commune blocking your application? Yes. Nonsense. She slammed the table. The central document clearly states that students have the right to choose their own majors, and no organization is allowed to interfere. She immediately handed me a new form. Fill it out right here, and I'll collect it directly when you're done. While filling out the form, she glanced at my choices but didn't say anything. Only after I finished did she say, "Little girl, it's indeed difficult to get into Peking University, but since you have this ambition, I support you. Thank you, Teacher Zhao." "Don't thank me," she said. "If you must thank someone, thank this era. It gave you a fair chance to compete." Stepping out of the county admissions office, the sunlight was blinding. I stood on the main street of the county town, watching the people come and go. Bicycle bells jingled, new slogans were painted on the propaganda walls. Everything was the same as in my past life, yet completely different this time. I am not anyone's wife, nor anyone's mother. I am just Xin Yulan, an educated youth determined to take the university entrance exam. 35 August saw the final push in our review sessions. Li Shuzhen gave me all the notes her husband left behind, along with a few precious copies of past competition problems. I cherished them as if they were treasures. Studying late into the night every day. My grandmother's condition fluctuated, but she never complained of pain. Sometimes, when I studied until the early hours, she would quietly sit at the other end of the con, draping a coat over me and handing me a cup of hot water. "Lon, don't push yourself so hard." "I have to," I said. "This is my only chance." She sighed and didn't press the matter further. At the end of August, a torrential downpour triggered a flash flood in the mountains. Hongqi Brigade was situated in low-lying land, and several homes were flooded. Li Shuzhen and I organized the women from the literacy class to help evacuate the elderly and children, and to rush to move the grain supplies. After working non-stop for 2 days and 2 nights, the floodwaters receded, and I collapsed from exhaustion. I was running a fever of 39 degrees Celsius, lying in bed delirious. The barefoot doctor came and said it was exhaustion plus a cold. Li Shuzhen was frantic. "There are only 3 months left until the exam." I lay there in a daze, dreaming of the exam hall in my past life. I couldn't enter, because Jia Yuqing said, "What are you even thinking of taking the exam for? You're just a middle school graduate. Stay home and take care of the kids." When I woke up, my grandmother was wiping away tears. "Grandma, I'm fine," I said hoarsely. "You're not fine," she sobbed. "What would I do if something happened to you?" I held her hand. "I promise you, I'll definitely get into college and take you to the city to live a good life." She cried even harder. I was sick for a week before the fever finally broke. Li Shuzhen came to visit me, bringing a can of malted milk, an absolute rarity these days. "Replenish your strength," she said. "Your health is the capital of the revolution." I didn't refuse, made 2 cups, one for my grandmother, and slowly drank the other myself. Cloyingly sweet, yet it warms the heart. 36 October marks the official launch of registrations. The county set up a registration point, and it was packed to the brim. There were high school students around 17 or 18, educated youths in their 20s or 30s, and middle-aged folks with families in tow. I waited in line for 3 hours before I could finally submit my documents. The clerk checked my information. Xin Yulan, 21 years old, educated youth, applying for the science stream. Your exam admission ticket will be available for collection next month. Stepping out of the crowd, the sunlight was just right. A young man in his early 20s approached me. "Comrade, are you also an educated youth? Which school did you apply to?" I ignored him and walked away quickly. It's not about being aloof. I just don't have the time. Time has become my most precious commodity. Every morning, it's all about memorizing, practicing problems, and summarizing. The handwritten notes stack up to half a foot high, and the draft papers used could fill a burlap sack. Early November, the admission ticket arrived, a thin sheet of paper, printed with my name, exam venue, and seat number. I carefully tucked my admission ticket into my textbook, checking it every night before bed. It was both a confirmation and a reminder. "Xin Yulan, you only get one chance." 37 1 week before the exam, early December, Li Shuzhen called me to the school, locked the door, and took an envelope from the drawer. "This is from my brother in the provincial capital," she said, her voice trembling. "Last year's college entrance exam mock test." I held my breath. The college entrance exam was reinstated in 1977, with no past papers or mock exams available. This set of questions might be the only one in the entire province. "I'm showing this to you and only you," she said, staring at me. "After you read it, burn it." I took the envelope, my hands trembling so much I could barely hold it. Ms. Lee, this is too much, no need for thanks, she said, waving her hand. Getting accepted is the best thanks I could ask for. That night, I didn't review my notes by the light of an oil lamp. I worked through that set of problems 3 times. First, time yourself. Second, focus on details. Third, summarize key exam points. By the time I finished, the sky was beginning to lighten. As agreed, I burned the questions in the flickering firelight. I silently memorized the last few common mistakes. 38 December 10th, the day of the exam. Grandma got up at 3 in the morning to boil 3 eggs and make 2 flatbreads for me. You need to eat well to have the strength for the test, she said. I had no appetite, but I forced it all down. Li Shuzhen borrowed the team's tractor and personally drove me to the county exam site. On the way, she didn't say a word, just held my hand tightly. Our palms were sweaty. I couldn't tell whose it was. The exam site was at the county's No. 1 middle school, and the entrance was packed with people. Some parents came to see their children off, some wives came to see their husbands off, and some, like me, came alone. Shen Yulan, someone called my name. I turned around and it was Zhou Xiaomei. She squeezed through the crowd and hugged me tightly. I knew you would definitely come to take the exam. How did you? I also signed up, she smiled, but I'm just here for fun. I definitely won't pass, but you must pass. The bell rang. Go on in, Li Shuzhen urged me with a gentle push. Don't be nervous, just do your best. I took a deep breath and walked into the examination hall. I found my seat and sat down. The invigilator unsealed the exam papers and distributed them. The first exam, politics. The moment I opened the test booklet, the world fell silent. All that remained was the soft scratch of my pen across the paper. I knew, from this moment on, my life, completely transformed. 39. The moment the political exam papers were distributed, a collective gasp echoed through the exam hall. The questions were far more difficult than anyone had anticipated. It's not the depth that's challenging, but the breadth. From the basic principles of Marxist philosophy to the latest policy spirit, from the history of the party to international affairs, a full 8 pages, 2.5 hours. I took a deep breath and started with the first question. 1. Briefly explain the scientific connotation of the ideological line of seeking truth from facts and its practical significance. 20 points. I picked up my pen and began writing. The soft scratch of my pen against the paper was the only rhythm in the examination hall. Some in the front row were scratching their heads in frustration, others in the back were sighing, but my eyes were fixed solely on the test paper. All those late nights studying by lamplight in my past life, all that persistence in transcribing policy documents, it all converged into the tip of my pen at this moment. With the final stroke written, I looked up at the clock. 40 minutes remained. I went through it all from the beginning, corrected 2 typos, and added 1 more piece of supporting evidence as I handed in my paper. The invigilator gave me an extra glance. I was the first to finish in this exam room. Stepping out of the classroom, the cold wind hit me, and I realized my back was soaked with sweat. How did you do? Zhou Xiaomei waited at the door, her face red from the cold. Not bad, I said. Did you finish? Just barely finished. She stomped her foot. I'm afraid I'm doomed in history and geography. Just as she was saying this, the students in the adjacent classroom also handed in their papers. In the crowd, I spotted 2 familiar figures, Jia Yuqing and Lin Weiqing. They also saw me. Jia Yuqing wore an old padded jacket with shiny cuffs, his face haggard, and his eye sockets sunken. Lin Weiqing, with her visibly pregnant belly, wrapped herself in an ill-fitting military coat, and her eyes carried a hint of malice when she saw me. They actually came to take the exam too. In his previous life, Jia Yuqing didn't take the college entrance exam in 1977. He was already a worker peasant soldier student and didn't deign to compete with commoners. Lin Weiqing, needless to say, was content to be the wife of an associate professor. In this life, it seems there truly is no way out. Oh, isn't this the great talent Shen? Lin Weiqing said sarcastically, daring to apply to Peking University. Aren't you afraid of the wind blowing your tongue off? I ignored her and said to Zhou Xiaomei, come on, let's go find a place to eat. Shen Yulan, Jia Yuqing called out to stop me. I stopped in my tracks but didn't turn around. Do you really have to be this harsh? He asked, his voice hoarse. After all we've been through, what do you mean by at least? I turned around. At least I fed you for 2 years. At least I almost became your free nanny. Or at least your mom almost killed me. The candidates who hadn't dispersed yet all turned to look over. Jia Yuqing's face turned red. What are you talking nonsense about? Whether it's nonsense or not, you know it in your heart. I glanced at Lin Weiqing's stomach. Congratulations on getting married with a child on the way. I just wonder if your meager temp worker salaries can support a child. Lin Weiqing screamed. Shen Yulan, don't push it too far, push it too far. I laughed. You came all the way from the county to take the exam. Don't tell me you're here to beg me to give up my spot. At these words, Jia Yuqing's face completely changed. I knew I was right, that's how he was in my past life, utterly incapable himself, yet always scheming to take what belonged to others. He snatched my chance to return to the city, he took my gloves, he stole credit for my work, and in the end, he even stole my entire life. How dare you slander me like that? Lin Weiqing charged forward, her hand raised to strike. Zhou Xiaomei grabbed her wrist firmly. What do you think you're doing? Trying to start a fight right outside the exam hall. Don't make me call the police. People nearby began to point and whisper. Jia Yuqing grabbed Lin Weiqing's arm, shot me a venomous glare, and hissed, "You'll pay for this." They left, their retreating figures a picture of disarray. Zhou Xiaomei let out a sigh of relief. That was terrifying. Yulan, do you think they'll try something? Absolutely, I said, which is precisely why they will. In their past lives, they did this. Anonymously reporting me during my professional title evaluation, spreading rumors when I was promoted. This time, they'll only be crueler, but I'm no longer afraid. 40 Afternoon exam for Chinese. The essay topic was a memorable event. Staring at the prompt, a flood of images flashed through my mind. My grandmother's hands draping a coat over me at night, the look in Li Shuzhen's eyes as she handed me a fountain pen, the handwritten English textbook Zhou Xiaomei mailed to me, and my past self, who died at that press conference. In the end, I wrote about the literacy class of the Red Flag Brigade. I wrote about the tears of women who had never known a single character writing their own names for the very first time, about the smile of the auntie who could never calculate her work points and was always shortchanged after she learned to use an abacus, about the nights I spent preparing lessons by the light of an oil lamp, and those winters spent learning characters huddled around the coal stove. As I reached the end, I added this passage. Some say knowledge changes destiny, but I believe knowledge first changes how one sees the world. When you understand the height of the sky and the depth of the sea, you will no longer be content with a tiny corner of the earth. When you grasp principles and discern right from wrong, you will no longer be easily deceived or manipulated. This unforgettable experience taught me, a woman is not a vine that must cling to a great tree to grow. A woman can also be a tree herself, putting down her own roots, turning toward the sun, and becoming a landscape all her own. After writing, I placed the final period with particular weight as I handed in my paper. The invigilator glanced at it, nodded, and said, "Nice handwriting." When I stepped out of the exam hall, dusk had already fallen. Zhou Xiaomei was waiting for me, her eyes sparkling. "Yulan," she said, "I wrote about you in my essay." I was taken aback. "I wrote about how you taught me to read, how you taught me to use an abacus, and how you said you would definitely get into university," she said excitedly. "I wrote really well." A warm feeling filled my heart. "Thank you." "What are you thanking me for?" She linked her arm with mine. "You'll be fine tomorrow with math and science. You too. Good luck." 41 Stayed at the county guest house, an 8-person room, so cramped that you couldn't turn around. All the roommates were female candidates. Some were too nervous to sleep, some stayed up late studying, and some sighed in despair. I lay down early, closed my eyes, and went over formulas in my mind. Woke up in the middle of the night, needing to pee. Gently got out of bed, and as soon as I reached the door, I heard muffled voices in the hallway. "Are you sure she's in this room?" "Yes, I saw her go in. The dose is right, just don't kill her. Relax, she won't be able to get out of bed tomorrow." Every hair on my body stood on end as I yanked the door open. In the dim light of the corridor, 2 men jumped in fright. They were the same ones who had been following Jia Yuqing during the day. "What are you doing?" The two exchanged glances and turned to run. I chased after them a few steps and then stopped. I can't chase them. It's pitch dark and unsafe. Back in the room, I checked each thermos one by one. Sure enough, the stopper on mine had been tampered with. When I brought it close, there was a faint, strange smell. One of the older women sharing the room woke up. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Someone put something in my water," I said calmly. The room erupted instantly. "Oh my God, call the police, quick, call the police." Who could be so heartless? The attendant on duty was woken up by the commotion. Upon hearing what happened, his face went pale. That's impossible. Call your supervisor here," I said. "Also, I want to change rooms." The guest house leader arrived, a man in his 50s. At the news, he broke out in a cold sweat. "Comrade, this must be a misunderstanding. Whether it's a misunderstanding or not, the police will know when they arrive," I said, looking at him. "The college entrance exam is a national priority. If someone drugged a candidate at the guest house, can you bear that responsibility?" His legs went weak. "I'll call the police right now." Immediately, the police arrived quickly. took my statement, and took the thermos away as evidence. It wasn't until 3 a.m. that I was finally moved to a single room on the second floor, which was actually the boss's office, hastily cleared out for me. By the time I lay down, dawn was already breaking, but I couldn't sleep. Jia Yuqing, Lin Weiqing, are you that afraid of me passing the exam, so afraid you'd resort to crime? Fine, this time, you've handed me the leverage yourselves. 42. The next day was the math exam, perhaps spurred on by last night's events, or maybe fueled by anger. I worked through the problems faster than usual. The final question was on analytic geometry, and it was a tough one. In my past life, I left it blank because Jia Yuqing said, "What does a woman need geometry for?" This time, I solved it using 3 different methods. When I handed in my paper, the invigilator looked at me again, this time with approval in his eyes. At noon, Zhou Xiaomei found me, her eyes red. "Yulan, I heard, they were so cruel." "It's fine," I said, "I didn't drink." "But what if?" "There's no what if." I patted her hand. "Afternoon is the comprehensive exam, and after that, it's over." "What about the police report?" "Let's talk after the exam. I can't afford to be distracted right now. I need to be in my best form too. Finish this final exam." 43. In the afternoon, it was the comprehensive science exam, with physics and chemistry combined into one paper. The questions were still quite challenging, especially the final comprehensive mechanics problem in physics, which required applying concepts from advanced mathematics, like calculus. But as luck would have it, there was a similar type of problem in the set of practice exams Li Shuzhen had given me. I barely had to think. I just picked up my pen and started writing. Halfway through writing, a sudden scream rang out in the exam hall. "Ah!" Everyone looked up. It was Lin Weiqing. She clutched her stomach, her face deathly pale, as a patch of red spread across the exam paper on the desk. "Blood, she's bleeding," someone shouted. The invigilator rushed over. "Quick, get her to the hospital." The examination hall descended into chaos. I glanced over. Jia Yuqing was frantically helping her, his face filled with panic. "Premature birth, calculating the time, it should be around now." In their previous life, their son was born prematurely, weak and sickly, costing them a lot of money. This was one of the reasons why Jia Yuqing later desperately tried to make money. I didn't look up again and continued answering the questions. In the last 10 minutes, I finished writing the final chemical equation, checked and handed in the paper. As I walked out of the exam hall, the sunset was just perfect. The golden red light bathed the old school gate of County No. 1 High School, falling on the faces of the examinees, some elated, some dejected. Zhou Xiaomei rushed over and hugged me. "It's over, the exams are finally over." Yes, it was over. 2.5 years of waiting, countless days and nights of hard study. In this moment, it all came to an end. "How did you do on the exam, Yulan?" she asked. "About as well as I usually do," I said. "You're a shoo-in for Peking University." Then, I smiled. "Let's wait for the results." 44. When I returned to the guest house to pack my luggage, the police came again. "Comrade Xin Yulan, there has been progress in last night's case," said the leading police officer, surnamed Zhang, who was in his 40s and had a serious expression. "We have apprehended the 2 individuals, and they confessed. They were acting under Jia Yuqing's orders." I wasn't surprised at all. "Where's Jia Yuqing?" "At the hospital. His wife went into premature labor and is in critical care," Officer Zhang said. "We've got people watching. Once his wife's condition stabilizes, we'll bring him back to the station." "Can we charge him?" "Attempted poisoning. The facts are clear, the evidence is solid, it's enough for detention," he said, looking at me. "Committing the crime during the national college entrance exams is an aggravating factor. It might even get his exam results invalidated." I nodded. "Thank you, Officer Zhang. It's my duty." He paused. "Additionally, our investigation found that Jia Yuqing and Lin Weiqing are suspected of falsifying application materials." Lin Weiqing didn't even meet the application requirements. She didn't finish middle school. I felt a spark of interest in her previous life. Lin Weiqing's education background was always a mystery. After Jia Yuqing achieved fame and success, he arranged for her to obtain a continuing education undergraduate diploma, but doubts about it persisted. So that's where the problem lies. "Will this affect my admission?" I asked. "No," Officer Zhang said firmly. "You are the victim, and your scores are genuine and valid. Our Public Security Department will issue a certificate to protect your legitimate rights and interests." After seeing the police out, Zhou Xiaomei gasped. "Oh my god, Jia Yuqing really dug her own grave." "Serves her right," I said, stuffing the last piece of clothing into the cloth bag. "What about Lin Weiqing?" "She got what she deserved. In my past life, they climbed over my bones. And in this one, it's finally their turn to fall." 45. On the way back to Hongqi Brigade on a tractor, I leaned against the cart for the first time and felt exhausted, the exhaustion that seeps from the marrow. 2.5 years, every day felt like a battle, working during the day, reviewing at night, taking care of my grandmother, dealing with all sorts of difficulties. Now, I can finally catch my breath, but that tension in my heart is still there, waiting for the results, waiting for admission, waiting for everything to truly settle. Li Shuzhen was waiting for me at the village entrance. Seeing me, she asked nothing and simply took my cloth bag. Let's go home. Granny made chicken soup. Granny indeed made chicken soup, with red dates and goji berries added. The small earthen house was filled with a fragrant aroma. Drink up, it's nourishing. She ladled out a full bowl. I held the bowl, the steam making my eyes sting. Grandma, I'm finished with the exam. Good, good. She wiped her eyes. Whether you pass or not, my granddaughter is still the best. Li Shuzhen chuckled from the side. She'll definitely pass. I can tell just by looking at her face. She's brimming with confidence. After drinking the chicken soup, I felt warm all over. Li Shuzhen finally asked, is everything okay at the exam venue? I told her about the drugging incident. Her face turned ashen. You beast, they've got him. Serves him right. She slammed the table. People like that deserve to be down for good. Grandma kept murmuring prayers. Bodhisattva, please protect, please keep my lawn safe. That night, I slept like a log, no dreams, like finally being able to lie down in peace after a long journey. 46. By the end of December, the results hadn't come out yet, but the County Public Security Bureau's decision had arrived first. Jia Yuqing was detained for 15 days and fined 200 yuan for inciting others to endanger public safety, albeit unsuccessfully. Lin Weiqing had a premature birth and gave birth to a son, but the child was born with congenital deficiencies and has been staying in the hospital's incubator, with expenses piling up daily. Their college entrance exam scores were naturally voided. Zhou Shemei wrote in her letter, the day Jia Yuqing was released from detention, he crouched and cried at the gate of the county hospital. His father was so angry that he had a stroke, and his mother wanted to cut ties with him. Lin Weiqing's family came to cause trouble, demanding medical and nutritional fees. A complete mess. I showed the letter to my grandmother and Li Shuzhen. Granny sighed. What a sin, Li Shuzhen sneered. Serves them right. I think they deserve it too, but more than anything, there's a sense of relief. The hatred, the resentment, the grievances that haunted my dreams at midnight from a past life, in this moment, they all suddenly faded. It's not forgiveness, it's just no longer necessary. They have become nothing more than a patch of mud on my path, and I must keep moving forward. 47. In January 1978, the results were out. Li Shuzhen called from the commune, her voice trembling. Yulan, the results, your results. I held the receiver, my palms sweaty. Total score, 468. She almost shouted, first in the county, third in the region. My legs went weak, and I almost fell to the ground. Subject scores, politics 95, Chinese 92, math 98, science 183. She continued, English reference score 86. Peking University is a sure thing. After hanging up the phone, I leaned against the wall, unable to move for a long time. Grandma shuffled over unsteadily. Lon, what's wrong? Did you not get in? I turned around and hugged her. Grandma, I got in. I came first in the whole county. She froze for a moment, then burst into tears with a loud wah. She cried like a child. Li Shuzhen rushed back from the commune, slapping the report card on the table. Look, look, the Red Flag Brigade has produced a golden phoenix. The news spread like wildfire, and within half a day, the entire brigade knew about it. Captain Lu led a group with drums and gongs to congratulate me, saying they would hold a celebration for me. The aunties and sisters from the women's literacy class surrounded me, some handing me 2 eggs, others a handful of dates. Mr. Shen, I knew you could do it. You've made us women proud. When you go to Beijing, don't forget about us. I smiled and nodded, but my eyes welled up with tears. These people who once thought I was restless and those who used to gossip about me behind my back are genuinely happy for me now, because they saw a woman not relying on marriage or connections, but with her own hands and a pen, truly carving out a path. 48. In February, the admission notice arrived, a brown craft envelope with the words Peking University printed in red. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was an admission notice, an enrollment guide, and a letter for new students. Dear Miss Shen Yulan, after review, you have been admitted to the Department of Mathematics at our university. Please report to the school by March 15, 1978, the Department of Mathematics. I actually got in. Grandma placed the admission letter on the altar beneath the portrait of Chairman Mao in the main hall, and she would wipe it clean 3 times a day. Li Shuzhen held the admission letter, looking at it over and over. Finally, she said, I must go and light some incense for my husband, to tell him that the books he left behind really did raise a Peking University student. Before I left, I sorted out all my study materials and gave them to Li Shuzhen, for the students who come after me. I said, tell them it's never too late to learn, if you want to. Her eyes grew moist again. I will, she said. The Red Flag Brigade held a farewell party for me. Captain Liu, on behalf of the brigade, gave me a new pen and a canvas school bag. The women pooled their money to make me a new outfit, blue khaki, simple in style but with sturdy stitching. When you get to Beijing, dress nicely, they said. Don't let people look down on us rural folks. I took the outfit, bowing deeply. Thank you all. I will definitely not bring shame to the Red Flag Brigade. 49 On March 10, 1978, I left the Red Flag Brigade. My grandmother insisted on seeing me off, and I couldn't refuse, so she accompanied me to the commune bus station. As the car arrived, she held my hand and repeatedly reminded me, right when you get there, add more clothes when it's cold, study hard. I know. I hugged her. Grandma, once I settle down, I'll bring you to Beijing. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. Li Shuzhen also came and handed me a cloth bundle. For the journey, the car started moving. I looked out the back window and saw my grandmother still standing there, her small figure growing smaller until it finally became a tiny dot. I clutched the admission notice in my hand, its edges already frayed. In my previous life, I had also seen an admission notice, Jia Yuqing's. Back then, I held our daughter and looked at his confident face, feeling that he was my entire world. Now I know, it wasn't. My whole world is in my own hands. The car left the county town and merged onto the national highway. Outside the window, the ravines and gullies of the Lus Plateau crisscrossed the landscape, a stark reflection of the path I've walked these past 3 years. The road was rough, but every step was taken with purpose. Next stop, Beijing. The next chapter of life begins. 50 In March 1978, the Peking University campus was awash with the fresh green of spring. There were 32 students in the class of 78. Mathematics department, and I was the only woman on the first day of school. I walked into the classroom wearing a blue blouse sewn by the women of the Red Flag Brigade, drawing curious glances. But when I solved a complex calculus problem on the blackboard, all those looks turned to ones of admiration. My university life was simple yet fulfilling, revolving around a 3-point routine: the classroom, the library, and the dormitory. I would get up at 5 every morning for my studies and was always the last one to leave the study hall. Late at night, teaching assistant Chen Mingyuan first noticed me at the library. I had queued up before opening time for 7 consecutive days to borrow an out-of-print copy of Advanced Algebra. So you're Xing Yulan, the one who placed third in the regional exams? He asked, flipping through my borrowing history. You've been teaching yourself from all these books? I lowered my head and went back to my calculations. If you need any tutoring, just let me know. He was a math graduate student and the son of a county party secretary, but he never flaunted it. 51 News of Jia Yuqing and Lin Weiqing still reached me through Zhou Xiaomei's letter. Lin Weiqing's child couldn't be saved, and she suffered a mental breakdown, constantly threatening to commit suicide. Jia Yuqing was caught stealing steel from the construction team and was sentenced to 3 years in prison. His mother, Wang Xiuying, had a stroke and became paralyzed, while his father took early medical retirement. Zhou Xiaomei wrote, evil begets evil. Yulan, you must live better than anyone else and make them furious. I burned the letter. They're no longer worth my emotional energy. 52 In the second semester of my freshman year, I earned the top scholarship by ranking first in my entire department. Chen Mingyuan invited me to join his research group, studying the application of operations research in factory cost control. The provincial machinery plant is very invested in this project. He said, if we do well, there might be an internship opportunity. The machinery plant in her past life, it was the place Jia Yuqing was later transferred to, and Lin Weiqing also worked there as an accountant. I'm going, I said. 53 In the summer of 1979, I joined the provincial machinery factory's finance department for an internship as a member of a research project team. On my first day of reporting, I met Lin Weiqing in the factory office corridor. She was emaciated, wearing faded overalls, and being scolded by the finance department head. You made 3 more mistakes this month. If you don't want to do this, just get out. When she looked up and saw me, her pupils contracted. Xing Yulan, Lin, the accountant. I nodded calmly. You, how did you get here? Math department, Peking University, here for my internship. I flashed my work ID. Her face turned deathly pale, as if she'd seen a ghost. My internship task was to design a new cost accounting system for the machinery plant. In my past life, I had read Jia Yuqing's later published groundbreaking paper, That very system was actually the prototype I had painstakingly developed through countless late nights of number crunching. Now, I've refined and optimized it, turning it into a 30,000-word proposal. The finance director was amazed after reading the draft. Comrade Xiao Shen, this method of yours could save the factory at least 200,000 yuan a year. When the news spread, Lin Weiqing couldn't sit still. 54. One evening in July, Lin Weiqing stopped me at the factory gate. Shen Yulan, we need to talk. We have nothing to talk about. It's about Jia Yuqing, she said through gritted teeth. He's getting out of prison soon. Could you just let him be? I laughed. When have I ever not let him off the hook? If it weren't for you reporting him, how could he have? Did I tell him to steal the steel? Or did I tell him to drug you? My face turned cold. Lin Weiqing, you brought this on yourselves. Lin Weiqing suddenly knelt down and clutched my leg. I'm begging you. I'm pregnant. I can't lose him too. Give me the job at the machinery plant. I swear I'll never appear in front of you again. I yanked my leg hard, and she fell backward, screaming, he's hitting me. A college student is hitting me. A few workers came over upon hearing the commotion. I watched her performance calmly, then slowly took out a small tape recorder from my shoulder bag. I pressed the stop button, rewound, and then pressed play. The tape spun, and her voice came through clearly. You give me the job at the machinery factory. I promise never to show up in front of you again. The workers around changed their expressions, and murmurs began to rise. Lin Weiqing's face instantly drained of color. She jerked her hand back as it burned, pointing at the recorder, her voice shrill and distorted. You recorded me. This is an invasion of privacy. It's illegal. Illegal. I turned off the recorder, calmly looking at her. In a public place, you initiated the harassment, threatened with words, and slandered others. I recorded this to protect my own legal rights, which is both reasonable and justified. Lin Weiqing, do you want to guess whether you'll still have this job if I hand over this tape, along with the investigation materials about your forged credentials to enter the machinery factory, to the factory discipline committee and the police? Wouldn't you call that attempted extortion? With every word I spoke, the color drained further from her face. When the words extortion left my lips, her whole body began to tremble. That job was her only lifeline now. You're ruthless. She squeezed out the words through gritted teeth, no longer daring to meet the eyes of those around her, got up, and stumbled away. I put away the recorder. This machine was lent to me by Chen Mingyuan for a research interview, but I didn't expect it to come in handy for this first. 55. When Chen Mingyuan came to see me, I had just finished writing my internship report. I heard someone gave you trouble today. It's resolved. I handed him the recorder. After listening, his expression changed from surprise to seriousness. So it's them who have been harassing you and trying to harm you. Fortunately, I got rid of them early on. He turned off the recorder and remained silent for a long time. Shen Yulan, you are the most resilient woman I've ever met, I said. It's life that forced me. He suddenly asked, would you be willing to face the future together with me, not out of pity, but out of respect and admiration? I looked at him. There was a sincere light in the eyes of this lean, refined man. Wait until I graduate, I said. Wait until I truly stand on my own feet. He smiled. All right, I'll wait for you. 56. In the summer of 1982, I graduated from Peking University's mathematics department with the highest honors. Chen Mingyuan had already been transferred to the provincial finance department. He recommended me to take the public recruitment exam for RAND personnel in their financial system. Outside the examination hall, I ran into Jia Yuqing. He had been released from prison just 6 months ago, working as a temporary worker in a small factory on the street, with a scraggly beard and dull eyes. Seeing me in a brand new white shirt and black skirt, holding a Peking University diploma, his lips trembled. Shen Yulan, Comrade Jia Yuqing, please step aside. I need to take the exam. I signed up too. He clutched the crumpled exam admission ticket. Could you give your spot to me? I'll marry you. Just like in our past life. I finally made out the last 4 words. Just like in our past life. So, he was reborn too. I laughed, tears streaming down my face. Jia Yuqing, do you know what I regretted most in my previous life? I said slowly. It wasn't marrying you, nor sacrificing for you. It was, until my death. I never told you. I loathe you. His face turned ashen. Now I'll make it up. I stared into his eyes. Ever since the day you thanked Lin Weiqing at the press conference. No, ever since the first time you used me as a stepping stone. I, Shen Yulan, find even looking at you repulsive. After saying that, I walked into the exam room. Written exam, interview, an inevitable first place. On the day the admission was announced, Jia Yuqing made a scene at the entrance of the provincial finance department, claiming she would report me for backdoor recruitment. Chen Mingyuan arrived, carrying a letter from the provincial finance department. Comrade Shin Yulan is an outstanding graduate from Peking University, especially hired talent by the department. Comrade Jia Yuqing, if you continue to disrupt the unit's order, we can call the police. Jia Yuqing looked at him, then at me, and suddenly sank to the ground, wailing uncontrollably, like a stray dog with its tail between its legs. 57 On National Day in 1983, Chen Mingyuan and I got married. The wedding was held in the county, simple yet lively. All the aunties and sisters from the Red Flag Brigade came. Li Shuzhen served as the witness, Zhou Xiaomei was the bridesmaid, Grandma sat at the main table in her new clothes, smiling from ear to ear. My parents were naturally more satisfied with Chen Mingyuan than with Jia Yuqing, and they even praised me for being capable. It's said that Jia Yuqing went south and has since disappeared without a trace. Lin Weiqing remarried an old bachelor, and their life is chaotic and tumultuous. On our wedding night, Chen Mingyuan held my hand and said, "You don't have to push yourself so hard anymore." "I do," I replied. "I want to take the postgraduate entrance exam. I want to study abroad. I want to do so much more." He smiled. "All right then, I'll be right there with you." 58 1993. At the Peking University alumni reunion, I was already the youngest department head at the provincial finance department. While Chen Mingyuan was a deputy director, we walked into the venue hand in hand, drawing admiring glances from all around. In the shadows of a corner, Jia Yuqing, dressed in a server's uniform, was wiping down a table. He saw me, and the tray in his hand clattered to the ground. I walked past calmly, as if passing through thin air. An old classmate asked, "Yulan, I heard you got engaged when you were in the countryside. How is he now?" "Dead," I said, in my heart. The room fell silent for a moment, then applause broke out for my rebirth, and for all women who refused to accept their fate or admit defeat. As the event ended, Chen Mingyuan asked me, "Do you still hate him?" I gazed up at the vast, high autumn sky of Beijing and shook my head. "No more hatred. Hating is too exhausting. I want to spend my time with those I love, on things I want to do, and on this hard one, truly my own life." The end. Story 2. The childhood friend who grew up in our family was selected by the factory for overseas training this year, but his first love tried to drug him with spiked alcohol to make him miss this opportunity and stay. I couldn't bear to see everyone's hopes for him dashed, so I told our parents the truth. Our parents were furious and reported it to the police. His first love was arrested and hanged herself. Unable to bear the slander, the childhood friend who later achieved fame blamed it all on me, taking revenge that left my entire family dead. Given a second chance at life, I watched coldly as he spiraled downward while his rival rose to prominence with a dazzling future. At the factory gate, Li Zhongfeng started past wearing an award ribbon, brimming with pride. "Li Zhongfeng is so handsome, growing up with him since childhood, you really hit the jackpot," Wang Li said to me with a suggestive wink. In my past life, I naively believed Li Zhongfeng and I were destined to be together. On my 18th birthday, I mustered the courage to ask him to take a commemorative photo with me, but he impatiently turned me down. My parents scolded me for being inconsiderate and disrupting his preparations for the overseas interview. But that night, when I impulsively decided to bring Li Zhongfeng some midnight snacks, I saw him holding Chen Lan's hand in the factory dormitory, writing sweet vows on an imported photo paper. "Once Li Zhongfeng returns from abroad, Qinghe, you'll become a wealthy lady." Wang Li's teasing remark snapped me out of my memories. A wealthy madam. As the daughter of the county academy's headmaster, I never knew hardship growing up and cared little for vanity, but I couldn't bear to see Li Zhongfeng's decade of diligent study come to nothing, so I, who never believed in fate, found myself praying for a protective charm at the temple. On the morning of the interview, hoping for good luck, I went out at dawn to buy a celebratory cake. As I cheerfully carried it home, I spotted Chen Lan by the bike shed, where she shouldn't have been, whispering furtively with a man. "Does this drug really work?" "Don't you worry, girl, everyone back home uses this stuff. It'll break even the strongest willpower." My face burned as I eavesdropped, initially thinking Chen Lan intended the medicine for her household pets. To my shock, Chen Lan snatched the package and declared, "I don't care if he resists, I just need him to miss tomorrow's flight abroad." Well said. Once men go overseas, do they ever remember their families? The man leered toward our house, greed twisting his features as he crooned, "Just marry into the Lin family, and your dear brother here will live like a king." How much must that building be worth, sis? "Once you marry Li Zhongfeng, our whole family can move in, right?" Chen Lan said smugly. "Absolutely, just wait for my good news when you get home. That brother-sister pair actually plans to harm Li Zhongfeng." I couldn't bear seeing Li Zhongfeng's future ruined by Chen Lan. After returning home, I revealed her and her brother's scheme to him, hoping he'd stay alert and avoid falling into Chen Lan's trap. Li Zhang Feng accused me of slandering Qianlan out of jealousy, using such despicable means to tarnish her reputation. Left with no choice, I turned to my parents for help. Furious, my parents immediately called the police, who found drugs in Qianlan's possession on the spot and took her away. Li Zhangfeng remained silent at the time, but the next day, she still passed the overseas qualification exam as scheduled. 3 years later, he returned from abroad with his degree and founded the county's first joint venture, becoming the youngest self-made millionaire. My parents were overjoyed, repeatedly saying their sacrifices had finally paid off. But that very year, Li Zhangfeng colluded with local thugs to ransack my father's academy under the pretense of cracking down on monopolies, leaving our family homeless. With his dying breath, he sneered while choking me, lynching her. You wretched woman, you drove Qianlan to hang herself. You and your whole damn family should pay with your lives. For her, rot in the gutter where you belong. That rainy night in the abandoned factory, even after assaulting me, he wasn't satisfied. He had someone bring an iron rod and shattered all my limbs. Now reborn, I'll never meddle with that ungrateful wretch's fate again. Li Zhangfeng's parents abandoned him at home and never came back. He lived a hard life alone in the countryside, struggling to make ends meet. Yet he showed remarkable intelligence from childhood, memorizing the entire Xinhua dictionary by age 5. After he started school, my father, recalling their family connection, feared his talent would be wasted in rural poverty, so he arranged for the boy to be brought to our county town. Treating him like his own son, Dad enrolled him in the county's best tutoring program and provided only the finest food, clothing, and necessities. After sweeping first place in county and city-level competitions, this overseas opportunity was his final ticket to completely change his destiny. I'd made up my mind to let Li Zhangfeng follow his own path. No more meddling from me, not even half a step further. On interview day, Dad had the driver polish the car to a mirror shine at dawn, waiting cheerfully in the courtyard. Before long, Mom came rushing in panic. Guoqiang, something terrible. Zhangfeng, he's gone missing. Dad thought he'd misheard. What do you mean, gone? I've searched the entire house, checked the bathroom, the rooftop, but I can't find a trace of Zhangfeng. Dad's face went pale, and he swayed. I quickly stepped forward to steady him. Dad, don't worry, maybe he just went to the factory to report in early. He patted my hand. Qing is right. All right, Lao Zhang, take a few colleagues and thoroughly search the neighborhood again. Shaoli, ride your motorcycle to Zhangfeng's usual hangouts, check all his friends' places. Go now. The search went on until the foreign VIP who came for the interview had already departed. When the driver finally leaned over and whispered something to Dad. What did you say? You saw it with your own eyes. The driver nodded with a grimace. It's absolutely true. Dean Lin, father stormed over with a group, his face livid, seeing Qianlan cradled in Li Zhangfeng's arms. He raised his hand and struck without hesitation. Li Zhangfeng shielded Qianlan protectively behind him, defiance written across his face. Uncle Lin, I was drunk and violated Qianlan's virtue. Blame me alone, don't punish the innocent. Nonsense, father exploded with rage. You were drunk and reckless, but that factory girl was stone cold sober. Why didn't she scream for help the whole time? She just watched you miss your interview and ruin your future. Zhangfeng, you've been played. Qianlan bit her lip hard, remaining silent while putting on an expression of extreme grievance. Seeing this, Li Zhangfeng said with tender concern, a girl's reputation means everything. She'd be too terrified to make a scene. Why would she scream? She's worried about her reputation. But do you realize that skipping the factory's selection process without reason is tantamount to deceiving the leadership? That's a serious offense. Li Zhangfeng had been sharp-witted since childhood. How could she not understand the gravity of the situation? Missing the interview was my mistake. I'll take full responsibility and won't drag Uncle Lin into this. The father, who had been holding himself together all this time, went pale and fainted. Upon hearing these words, I quickly steadied Dad and helped the driver bring him back home. Qinghe, Li Zhangfeng stopped me with guilt in his eyes. I know you've had feelings for me since childhood, but my heart already belongs to Qianlan. There's no room for anyone else, and I owe you an apology. I smiled faintly. You flatter me, brother Zhangfeng. Some people are all ambition but lack substance. When they meet their own kind, attraction is inevitable. Li Zhangfeng's face darkened instantly. Qianlan wore the aggrieved look of someone biting back anger. I was too naive back then, not understanding that relationships require social compatibility. In my past life, I too had resented why Li Zhangfeng became infatuated with Qianlan, a woman of low birth and no redeeming qualities. Now I finally see things clearly. Isn't Li Zhangfeng's journey from the countryside to the county town, with her humble status yet restless ambition, just like factory worker Chen Lan's story, compared to someone like me who only offers silent sympathy without truly understanding. There. Naturally more kindred spirits anticipating trouble. I'd already arranged for a county hospital doctor to stand by at home, and now, it's finally proving useful. Good thing Miss Lin had the foresight to call me in for this shift, otherwise your father would have been in real danger this time. I stood by my father's bedside, head bowed. Foresight, no. I'd simply finally seen Li Zhongfeng for who she really was. My mother held my hand, gazing at my unconscious father, tears streaming down her face. After Dad woke up, Li Zhongfeng, who had been missing for so long, finally showed up, but he didn't come to apologize. Instead, Uncle Lin, I beg you, please give your blessing for me to marry Chen Lan. Dad thought he must have misheard and pressed Li Zhongfeng for confirmation several times. You want to marry her? Uncle Lin heard right. I, Li Zhongfeng, swear I'll marry no one but Chen Lan in this lifetime. Mom wiped her tears. Trembling with rage, have you lost your mind? Chen Lan fell to her knees with a thud, tearfully pleading, I belong to Zhongfeng now. If I can't marry him, I'd rather die. Between the lines, she kept insisting on a proper marriage arrangement while deftly shifting all blame onto Li Zhongfeng. It was Li Zhongfeng who ruined her virtue. She did absolutely nothing wrong. How dare this swindler make a scene here? Old Zhang, call the police, have her taken away. Li Zhongfeng clutched Chen Lan tightly and shouted at his mother in agitation, Aunt Zhang never treated me as family. Tell me, if I were your biological son, would you treat his beloved this way? How ridiculous. Everyone in the Lin household knew that Zhang Fengli felt more like the family's true child than I, their actual daughter. After he moved in, Mother would specially arrange the kitchen to prepare his favorite dishes and seasonal fruits for every meal. While I might not get them daily, Zhang Fengli's portion was never missing. Even when he just had a slight cold or fever, Father would take leave from work to stay by his bedside around the clock. Dad spoiled him rotten. 4 years he never lifted a finger at home, had everything handed to him on a silver platter, living more comfortably than me, his own flesh and blood, and in the end, he repaid kindness with betrayal. What else can you call such a person but an ungrateful wretch? Mom nearly fainted from sheer rage. I tugged at Mom's sleeve and whispered, Mom, let it go. The interview's over, even if you drag her in now. Zhang Fengli won't get his overseas opportunity back. Twisting the knife in Zhang Fengli's wounds, I added, besides, you and Dad are just his adoptive parents. You can control him temporarily, but can you really control him forever? Why not give him your blessing? Let him move out with Lan Chen. Hearing my suggestion about them moving out, Lan Chen visibly panicked. Miss Lin, I don't mind if you're jealous and want to kick me out, but Zhang Fengli grew up with you, no matter how angry you are, you shouldn't drive him away too. She claimed to have Zhangfeng's best interests at heart, but really, she was just afraid of living in hardship if they moved out. Father wouldn't allow it either. How could he watch the child he poured his heart into raising throw away his future like this? He propped himself up, his body weak, and looked at Li Zhongfeng, speaking earnestly. Have you ever considered that to achieve something and establish yourself in society, you'll need a well-bred wife to help you manage your social connections? He glanced dismissively at Chen Lan. But this girl's entire family are idle, good-for-nothing commoners. They won't just be no help to your future, they'll only drag you down. Li Zhongfeng's eyes flickered, clearly showing some wavering. Seeing Chen Lan in tears, he stubbornly insisted, I don't care about any of this. Clenching his fists, Father finally sighed deeply and said, fine, have it your way then. Have you lost your mind? How could you let Zhangfeng run wild like this? After Li Zhongfeng left, Mother was so frantic she kept stamping her feet. I poured Dad a glass of warm water and reassured Mom, don't worry, Dad must have his reasons. Dad patted my hand gratefully. Our Qinghe always understands her father best. People only mature through hardship. Since he's made up his mind, let him learn life's lessons the hard way. He'll come around eventually. On the day Li Zhongfeng and Chen Lan moved out, I personally handed Chen Lan her factory employment records. As of today, you're no longer part of our factory and have no ties to the Lin family whatsoever. Your marital life from now on depends entirely on your own choices and efforts. Chen Lan took the file and leafed through it repeatedly. With her limited education, I couldn't understand what she was checking for, so I asked, what exactly are you looking for? I've already had accounting settle Chen Lan's rightful wages, and all the clothes we previously gave her were packed for her to take. I can't think of anything else we owe her. Chen Lan suddenly glared at me and said resentfully, Li Zhongfeng grew up in your household. Now that he's starting his own family and career, shouldn't Dean Lin offer some support? It finally dawned on me, they were blaming my parents for not giving them settlement money. Though Li Zhongfeng stood silently beside her, The dissatisfaction in his eyes made it clear he shared the same sentiment. Humph, what an ungrateful wretch. China's marriage law clearly states that children have a legal obligation to support their parents. Filial piety isn't optional, it's the law. Violators face legal consequences. Am I right, Li Zhongfeng? He frowned impatiently. So what? Get to the point. I smiled faintly. Since you're so well versed in the law, perhaps you could tell me which statute requires adoptive parents to buy their children houses, fund weddings, and support them for life. What's this? Treating my parents like ATMs? My sarcasm made Li Zhongfeng's face turn pale, then flush with embarrassment. It was you who insisted on bringing him from the countryside to town, just because he seemed bright. Since you brought him here, you should take full responsibility. So that's what they really thought. My parents only brought you to town for schooling, providing living and study arrangements. It's not formal adoption. You're free to return to the countryside anytime you wish. My missing uncle and aunt had defied family warnings back then. Eloping after conceiving a child in secret, they abandoned their elderly parents without a single word since. Like father, like son. Li Zhongfeng mastered ingratitude at such a young age. Qianlan, don't grovel before her. If I've got what it takes, I'll make my mark sooner or later. Oh really? Well, I'll wish you success in advance then. Without my family's support, Li Zhongfeng would struggle to cover even basic living expenses, but to my surprise, barely 2 weeks later, a stranger was knocking at my front door. The man was dressed in rags. Disheveled, clearly from the lowest rung of society, his small eyes greedily surveying my yard. When the driver stopped him from entering, he squatted right by my front gate and burst into loud sobs. This is where my relatives live. What right do you have to stop me from going in? Come see this injustice. Neighbors, Dean Lin is bullying us with his power. The boy he raised ruined my sister's virtue, and now they won't even let me through their gate. My beautiful young sister had her heart broken by that family for nothing. His shameless behavior quickly drew a crowd of onlookers. I recognized him immediately. It was Qian San, Qianlan's good-for-nothing brother. If we let this kind of person in, they'll surely spread malicious rumors about our family everywhere. I immediately blocked him at the door. My father has always been aboveboard. There's nothing he can't say openly. Let's settle this right here in front of everyone and let the crowd judge who's in the wrong. As soon as I finished speaking, the onlookers all nodded in agreement. Miss Lin is absolutely right. Dean Lin has an impeccable reputation in our county, fair and just in all matters. You may speak freely here. Qian San glared at me viciously and hissed through gritted teeth. Fine, since you insist, I'll lay it all out right here. Don't say I didn't warn you. Miss Lin, my brother-in-law had living parents, but that old fox Lin Wuqiang snatched him away just because he saw potential in the boy, ripped him straight from his birth family's arms. Not only was he torn from his parents for over a decade, the Lin family constantly abused him and treated him like a servant. Now, just because he missed an opportunity to study abroad, they heartlessly kicked him out of the house. Everyone, judge for yourselves. Is there any family that repays kindness with malice and burns bridges like this? The onlookers gasped in disbelief. I can't believe Dean Lin is like that behind closed doors, I calmly replied. First of all, Li Zhongfeng was indeed born in the countryside. See, she admitted it. Qian San laughed triumphantly. Some people in the crowd immediately showed pity upon hearing the word countryside. The rural conditions are so poor, it's even hard for children to get an education there. I continued along with their sentiment. Exactly, as we all know, life in the countryside is tough, and educational resources are scarce. My father saw Li Zhongfeng's exceptional talent and couldn't bear to see him wasted in the countryside, so he brought him to the county town. My father only wanted to provide him with a good learning environment and better education. As for abuse, that's absolutely out of the question. Any of our neighbors or workers can vouch for us. Qian San snapped furiously. Your family would naturally take your side. At this moment, a neatly dressed young man stepped forward. I'm Li Zhongfeng's co-worker, Zhou Qingxi. I can testify for Miss Lin, that Li Zhongfeng wears designer clothes and has fair, delicate skin. There's not a single sign of mistreatment. It's clearly you who's spreading malicious rumors about Dean Lin with ulterior motives. I nodded gratefully. Thank you, Zhou, for speaking the truth. Qian San still tried to argue. Now that he's starting a family, shouldn't you buy him a house? To give my sister a proper place to live? No, we shouldn't, I said firmly. Li Zhongfeng was willing to give up his overseas opportunity just to marry your sister, swearing he's a real man who can support his wife single-handedly. If he's so determined to stand on his own feet, Why are you asking my parents to keep supporting them? Are you trying to undermine his dignity? The crowd was stunned when they heard Li Zhongfeng had abandoned his state-sponsored study abroad opportunity for Qianlan, a bespectacled man, and the crowd scoffed. I thought Li Zhongfeng had some extraordinary reason for missing the interview. Turns out it was just for a woman. How many of us would kill for a chance to study abroad and polish our credentials? Yet this ingrate squandered state resources and betrayed Dean Lin's decades of mentorship. What an ungrateful wretch. How dare this backstabbing snake have the gall to ask the Lin family for house money? The sheer shamelessness. Working at the same factory as him makes my skin crawl. His impassioned speech drew thunderous applause. Here, we all despise such thankless scum. Qian San saw the tide turning and made himself scarce long ago. After the crowd dispersed, I sincerely thanked Zhou Qingxi. Thank you for speaking up for justice, Comrade Zhou. I'm truly grateful. He waved it off with a smile. Don't mention it. I just couldn't stand seeing them bully decent folks. Besides, Miss Lin remained remarkably composed under pressure, so articulate and clear-headed. You're truly exceptional. Exceptional? Hardly. I've just faced life and death once, so I'm not as timid as I used to be. You flatter me, Zhou. I'm just trying to keep my own household in order. Managing a family well is no easier than making your way in the world. I'd simply spoken my mind, but at the factory gate, Zhou Qingxi gazed at me thoughtfully, his eyes burning with intensity. Soon came the day when the admission list was posted. Li Zhongfeng didn't go to the interview, and our family had no interest in joining the commotion either. The list of people going abroad is posted on the factory building. Today it's just for public viewing. There's nothing special for us to see by going there. Wang Li, however, stubbornly dragged me out of the house. Who cares about some list? I want to see all the young guys from our factory. The Jinyu commercial building was right across from the factory. Wang Li and I sat in a small restaurant on the second floor, ordering 2 milk teas and a few pastries, watching the bustling crowd below in silence. This year's study abroad list is quite the spectacle. The factory's 2 top technicians competing for the sole overseas opportunity. Let's see who comes out on top, Wang Li muttered under her breath. These folks probably don't know your Li Zhongfeng missed the interview yet. What a shame. Only the factory management knows the selection results. The workers outside remain unaware of the actual situation. No sooner had she spoken than she nudged my arm. Look who's over there. Across the street stood Li Zhongfeng and Qianlan. Unmistakably, Qianlan was carrying a grocery basket, apparently out shopping when she happened to pass by. Seeing the crowd gathered at the factory gate, Li Zhongfeng's face darkened as he quickened his pace to leave. Isn't that technician Li? The list is about to be announced. Perfect timing for your arrival. Just as Li Zhongfeng was about to decline this so-called kindness, the crowd in front of the bulletin board suddenly erupted in commotion. Spring 1984 overseas study opportunity. Zhou Qingxi, the worker froze, meeting Li Zhongfeng's icy glare, then muttered awkwardly, why wasn't technician Li selected? No wonder Li Zhongfeng looked so upset. Though Zhou Qingxi worked with him in the technical department, neither would ever yield to the other. They clashed at work and fought tooth and nail in private for the factory's outstanding producer title. For Li Zhongfeng, anyone else getting this opportunity would have been bearable. Zhou Qingxi being the sole selection left him green with envy. Tossing and turning in agony all night, Li Zhongfeng coldly shook off the hand, her retreating figure betraying undisguised anguish in that fleeting glance. Qianlan approached just in time to witness his crestfallen state. Wang Li nudged me excitedly. Look, the drama's about to begin. Tears welled up in Qianlan's eyes as she gazed at Li Zhongfeng with wounded innocence. Zhongfeng, are you upset with me? Li Zhongfeng clenched his fists, struggling to contain his emotions before finally reaching out to gently tuck a wind-tousled strand of Qianlan's hair behind her ear. Don't be ridiculous. Even without going abroad, my future accomplishments won't necessarily pale in comparison to theirs. Wang Li clicked her tongue in astonishment. Well, I'll be damned. So this is Li Zhongfeng's weak spot. I couldn't care less about his personal affairs. The factory management previously overlooked his unexplained absence from the national selection because they were preoccupied with candidate screening. Now that the final list is published, I fear our family may face repercussions. I rushed home in a hurry and told my father about the situation. Dad scoffed. If the factory management really wanted to hold someone accountable, why wait until now? It was Zhou Qingxi, the newly elected representative, who pleaded for our family. The reasonable leadership recognized we were also victims in this Zhongfeng Li situation, so they let it slide. Dad's always been fair-minded, and with Zhou Qingxi's intervention, we managed to avoid trouble. But Zhongfeng Li, what a pity for Zhongfeng. Father sighed. Promotion seems forever out of his reach now. The punishment was actually lenient. just revoking his promotion eligibility despite wasting the factory's years of mentorship. But how many decades does one have to start over in life? Soon I had no time to dwell on it. Zhou Qingxi's mother came to propose marriage. Mom asked for my opinion. It's my fault. I always assumed you'd eventually marry. I never seriously considered your marriage prospects. She patted my hand with a smile. Your father and I think Zhou Qingxi is a fine match, comes from a respectable family, dependable character, with opportunities to study abroad. Half the girls at the factory have crushes on him, yet he's never shown interest, a man of loyalty and principle. Unlike that, Mom's face clouded with worry again at the mention of Li Zhongfeng. I set down the half-knitted sweater. I quite like Comrade Zhou too. He's open-minded and understanding, always respecting my thoughts and opinions, a rare quality in today's society. After the matchmaking gifts were exchanged, the wedding date was quickly settled. On that day of roaring drums and deafening firecrackers, I climbed into the wedding car wearing a red bridal veil. As the car started moving, a slender yet strong hand with distinct knuckles reached through the window, saying, "Here, sweetheart, have something sweet first." It was a chocolate candy. I took it and took a small bite, letting the sweet flavor melt between my lips and teeth. The wedding car hadn't gone far when it suddenly stopped. Outside, a cacophony of arguments erupted. Peeking through the curtains, I saw a dilapidated bicycle pulling a makeshift sedan chair, blocking the intersection with us, neither side willing to budge. Then I looked at Li Zhongfeng. Though he was wearing a red groom's suit, it was wrinkled and lacked any luster. In just a few months, he had lost a lot of weight and his complexion was sallow. The wedding sedan behind him was shabby beyond belief, with patched-up curtains. Not a single decent dowry item followed the carriage, if not for Li Zhongfeng's groom attire. Who'd guess this was a wedding? Li Zhongfeng seemed to sense being watched, locking eyes with me without pretense. I hastily dropped the curtain and smoothed my hair. After the wedding, Li Zhongfeng secretly came to see me. "Qinghe, why did you marry Zhou Qingxi? You know perfectly well he and I don't get along. Why would you?" Not wanting to engage further, I brushed him off with, "He's a decent man. That's all that matters." Their mutual dislike suited me just fine. It meant I wouldn't have to see Li Zhongfeng often after marriage. How could you be so reckless with marriage, Qinghe? Tell me honestly, do you still have feelings for me? Are you rushing into this marriage just to get back at me and Chenlan? What shameless audacity. I nearly vomited from disgust. When he saw me staring at him silently, he actually said, "Qinghe, I regret everything. I used to think missing this overseas opportunity was no big deal. After all, many master technicians in the factory became technical experts without ever going abroad." A faint, mocking smile played on my lips, my eyes filled with scorn. He'd always thought highly of himself, believing the world owed him everything. Why should everything and everyone revolve around him? Chenlan's house was a wreck, tiny, barely enough room to turn around, and the roof leaked when it rained. All the technical manuals I brought back from abroad were soaked. The next day, I was hoping to salvage them by putting them out to dry. The moment I got up, I saw Qian San selling those precious documents as scrap paper to the recycling station. Listening to his complaints, I couldn't decide whether to laugh or cry. Those technical manuals that Li Zhongfeng guarded more fiercely than his own life, never even letting me flip through them, got sold as waste paper by that illiterate Qian San. What can you do about it? Didn't you choose Chenlan and her family yourself? But I regret it now. Qinghe, you saw me about to make a mistake. Why didn't you stop me? If you'd stopped me back then, I'd be the one studying abroad now, getting fast-tracked for promotion at the factory after returning, and marrying you would have been me too. How absurd. Didn't I stop him in my past life, only to be repaid with betrayal that got my whole family killed? He's blaming me just to avoid being labeled as heartless, making me the villain so he can have both career success and romantic happiness in the future. What a clever little scheme. But I've learned one thing: no good deed goes unpunished. Respect others' choices and rein in unnecessary pity. I pushed him away. Li Zhongfeng, you're mistaken. Whether you marry Chenlan or not has nothing to do with me. In this lifetime, whether he succeeds or fails, becomes wealthy or remains poor, none of it concerns our Lin family. On the homecoming day, though my parents greeted me with cheerful faces, their brows were shadowed by unspoken worry. Not wanting to ask too much in front of Zhou Qingxi, I took the opportunity to inquire when Mom showed me the new apartment. Mom said after Qian San realized Li Zhongfeng's technical manuals were valuable, instead of selling them as scrap paper, he offloaded the entire batch at a low price to a private factory he knew. He didn't spend the money on home repairs or groceries, let alone work supplies for Zhongfeng. Every penny went straight to the gambling dens. When Zhongfeng went to collect the debt, that bastard Qian San not only refused to pay, but called him a worthless good-for-nothing who couldn't earn money yet ate like a horse. To be fair, Li Zhongfeng was book-smart but practically useless at anything else. Not only did they hurl insults, they actually beat Zhongfeng senseless. That heartless Qianlan just stood there watching as her brother beat him half to death, even disfigured his face. Mom's eyes welled up as she spoke. Our factory policy prohibits workers with prominent facial scars from working on export production lines that way. Even if restrictions ease in 10 years, Li Zhongfeng won't be young anymore. I patted Mom's back gently and reassured her, not getting into foreign trade isn't the end of the world, as long as he's willing to work diligently. With his knowledge he could support himself as a technician or engineer. Mom immediately caught my implication. Qinghe, are you saying, Mom, I'll say it again, he's not your and Dad's biological child? You know what they say about never knowing what's in someone's heart. When everything was going his way, he showed no gratitude. Now, don't even bother expecting anything. My parents finally realized Li Zhongfeng was an ungrateful wretch and resolved to cut all ties with him completely. To everyone's shock, 3 months later, Li Zhongfeng showed up kneeling at our doorstep with the heavily pregnant Qianlan. With only Mom home at the time, I worried she couldn't handle the situation. Zhou Qingxi immediately accompanied me back in haste after we got the news. In just a few months' absence, a scar stretching from Li Zhongfeng's brow to chin had disfigured his once handsome features beyond recognition. His jet black hair was now streaked with silver, and the way he knelt there with a hunched back made it hard to believe he was barely past 20. Watching Zhou Qingxi carefully supporting me, Li Zhongfeng's eyes burned with jealousy and resentment. Before marriage, he'd always outshone Zhou Qingxi in every way, yet mere months later, while Zhou returned from abroad with boundless prospects, Li couldn't even afford decent clothes. How could a proud man like him not seethe with hatred? Qinghe, please put in a good word with Uncle Lin for me and Qianlan so we can move back home. If Uncle Lin hadn't been so strict back then, I wouldn't have rebelled and done such foolish things. I promise I'll never talk back to him again and will follow all his arrangements. Even now, he still doesn't realize his mistake. His words still carry that undertone of Dad being too controlling. Sis Qinghe. With a sallow face, Qianlan spoke up, let bygones be bygones, we're family now, and the child in my womb will one day call you aunt. How convenient for her to claim kinship. Too bad I want no part of it. When I remained silent, she shamelessly pressed on, Zhongfeng may never go abroad, but our child will fulfill his aspirations, getting into a top university and bringing honor to the Lin family. So you're saying our family is expected to cover their children's education expenses too? You and I were merely factory colleagues before, and now even that connection is gone. You'd better address me as Miss Lin from now on. As for Li Zhongfeng, you once claimed our Lin family was cold-hearted through and through, that only Qianlan looked past your background and genuinely cared for you, even secretly bringing you imported treats and useful items. But did it ever occur to you how an ordinary factory girl could have obtained those imported goods without my tacit approval? At my words, the faces of the two kneeling at my door contorted. Qianlan's face went ashen. She clearly hadn't expected that I knew all about her past affairs with Li Zhongfeng, yet had never exposed them, not even at the wedding. Now, with everything changed, I suddenly revealed her true colors. She shrieked in disbelief. How could you possibly know? No, that's impossible. Until my dying breath in my past life, I never understood why Li Zhongfeng chose Qianlan, plain as she was. When the factory was full of prettier girls reborn, I watched closely and finally uncovered the dirty little secret. Li Zhongfeng glared at Qianlan, his voice razor-sharp. Is what Qinghe said true? No, it's all lies. I saved up every single thing for you myself. The panic in her eyes betrayed her guilt. Li Zhongfeng, consumed with rage, slapped her hard across the face. You bitch. You've ruined my entire life. If you hadn't drugged my drink and seduced me, making me miss my chance to go abroad, I'd be a department head by now. I wouldn't be living hand-to-mouth like this, freezing my ass off without even a decent winter coat to my name. You destroyed my future. You destroyed my life. He lunged forward and seized Qianlan by the throat, his murderous glare identical to Li Zhongfeng's vicious assault on me in our past life. This place is too public, Li Zhongfeng. Settle your scores at home. Before the words left my mouth, Qianlan let out a piercing scream as a pool of crimson spread beneath her. Li Zhongfeng's face turned ashen as he released his grip, shouting at me, get her inside now. Call a doctor. Zhou Qingxi, who had been standing silently beside me, asked, should we let them in? This is literally a matter of life and death, but we're not responsible for Qianlan's premature labor. Li Zhongfeng brought this on herself. If I take pity and let them inside to call a doctor, and something happens to Qianlan or the baby, Li Zhongfeng would blame us for the rest of our lives. I shook my head. The woman who runs the pharmacy across the street is a midwife. Carry Qianlan over there now. It'll be much faster than waiting for a doctor here. But I still underestimated the depths of human cruelty. Li Zhongfeng watched Qianlan moan in agony, yet still insisted on using her and their unborn child to threaten me into letting them in. Qianlan, hang in there. If we can't find decent shelter for our child, we might as well not have it at all. Qing is too kind-hearted. She'd never leave us to die. Ha, what were they doing all this time? Did you never consider while having this child how that drafty shack of yours could possibly shelter them from the storm? The baby's almost here, and you've got nothing to your name. Now you dare threaten me. Li Zhongfeng, you've gone too far. Don't forget Qianlan's brother is a wanted man. If anything happens to her, what's left of your pretty face won't survive either. With that, I took Zhou Qingzi home. No matter how Li Zhongfeng pleaded or raged, my door would never open for him again. 5 days later, news arrived simultaneously of both Chen Lanqing's daughter and Li Zhongfeng hanging themselves. Father didn't say a word upon hearing it, aging visibly in an instant. After a long silence, he finally asked the messenger in a low voice, "Did he leave any last words?" The man replied with a strange expression, "Yes, the night before he hanged himself, he kept muttering deliriously about a dream where he returned from studying abroad and became factory director, kept rambling about how this life wasn't real." My parents didn't understand what she meant, dismissing it as the delirious ravings of a disturbed mind before death. Only I knew the truth. Li Zhongfeng's suicide likely came from remembering everything about her past life, waking to find reality so far removed from her dreams. She simply couldn't bear the crushing disappointment and chose to end it all. I don't know how many second chances life gives, but I'm certain that selfish, blame-shifting snakes like Li Zhongfeng will never have a happy ending, no matter how many times they're reborn. Zhou Qingzi came to take me home. As snowflakes began drifting down, I caught one in my palm, only for him to urgently tuck my hand into his coat pocket for warmth. "You're a mother now, yet still so childish. What if you catch a cold?" Laughing, I linked arms with him. "True, not a child anymore, but the mother of one." Zhou Qingzi lifted me up in joyful surprise. "Really, I'm going to be a father. Qinghe, you're heaven's greatest gift to me. You are too, reborn with him, our baby, and loving parents. This is the most precious gift life could give me." The end. Story 2. On Jiang Chuan's birthday, I caught his female secretary sneaking into his office dressed in all black, carrying several ropes. Upon discovering this, I immediately warned her and called the police. The secretary fled in panic but accidentally fell to her death in the stairwell. Jiang Chuan suppressed this news, citing the company's reputation. 1 year later, on the night of our wedding, he blindfolded me, saying it was for a surprise, yet he actually abandoned me at the very spot where his secretary had fallen to her death, which coincidentally was the anniversary of her passing. "You killed the woman I loved most. You deserve to die." Only then did I realize that he and his secretary were planning to play that day, and so, on my wedding night, I was tortured to death by Jiang Chuan. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day of his birthday. This time, I watched indifferently as the secretary went in. Jiang Chuan looked at me with an apologetic expression, "And Nan, thank you for specially preparing this birthday party for me. So many long unseen friends came. I'm truly happy. But I had a late meeting last night and now have a slight headache. You go ahead and entertain them for me first. I'm going to take a quick nap and come back later." The exact same words as in the previous life. Even the frowning expression and the tired gesture of rubbing his head were completely unchanged. The company had a team building event yesterday, and they got the afternoon off directly, with no one in the office. What was he going to use to hold a meeting? In my past life, I loved him too much. The moment he said he was uncomfortable, my mind went blank, completely forgetting about the team building holiday. When I remembered later, I still didn't suspect him. Occasionally, there were rumors at the company, but I ignored them outright, thinking those people were just gossiping nonsense. It wasn't until our wedding night that he took me to where Zhou Nana fell to her death and hung me up to torture me mercilessly. Listening to his gnashing curses and humiliations, I finally realized that night was their prearranged intimate game. Zhou Nana wasn't just his secretary, she was also his junior from university days. The two were inseparable. She'd even aborted 2 children for him, with promises to marry after graduation. But all this was conducted in secret. His parents didn't know, and neither did mine. Right after I graduated and returned to China, his parents arranged for us to meet. He had pursued me obsessively in his youth, saying I was the unattainable white moonlight of his dreams. He rented out the most bustling commercial building in the city center, spending millions just to confess his love to me. On my birthday, He lit up the entire sky with fireworks just to get me to accept his confession. It was also him who cried with snot and tears at the engagement banquet, promising to love me for a lifetime. Yet in his words, these incidents became my coercion, and I turned into the executioner who forced apart him and Joanna, the loving couple. He loved my outstanding capabilities and how my family could help his family overcome difficulties, but he also loved Nana's innocence and cuteness, as well as her fiery passion in bed. Thank heavens for giving me a second chance at life. This time, I'll make him pay 1,000-fold too. Just like in my past life, I didn't expose him and I showed the exact same worried expression as back then. Didn't you promise me before that once the company goes public, you'd take care of your health and stop working overtime late into the night? Why are you still pushing yourself so hard? This is the last time, don't let it happen again. Do you need me to take you back to your room to rest? I carefully observed Jiang Chuan's expression and movements just like in his previous life. He shook his head and refused. No need, just help me entertain these old friends. If I wake up early, I'll call you and we can arrange a late-night snack together. Indeed, rebirth isn't as common as cabbage. It seems I'm the only one who got reborn. I nodded with a smile. Okay, got it. You can rest easy. I've got everything under control here. Jiang Chuan exchanged greetings with a few close childhood friends before finally turning to go upstairs. Most of the people here were his best friends, with some being close business associates. Even if he was completely lust-driven, he knew better than to breach etiquette at a high-profile banquet like this. Joanna appeared to be chatting and laughing with those around her. In reality, her peripheral vision was entirely fixed on Jiang Chuan. The moment he left, she immediately went to the restroom and changed from her white gown into a black pantsuit. This time, I didn't follow out of concern. Instead, she smiled and tapped a spoon against a champagne glass, drawing everyone's attention in unison. Today, I'm delighted we've all gathered to celebrate Jiang Chuan's birthday. Unfortunately, due to his heavy workload recently, he's feeling unwell and has retired to his room to rest, but I prepared a romantic fireworks display for everyone. In 10 minutes, please follow me to the rooftop to enjoy the show. Instantly, everyone's eyes lit up with excitement. No one doesn't love romantic fireworks. In my past life, I also prepared fireworks, blue fireworks prepared half a year in advance at great expense. But in that past life, Joanna fell to her death. Although the news was suppressed, I couldn't bear it and cancelled the fireworks. In this lifetime, no matter who dies, the fireworks will go on. 3. The drama of catching an affair becomes livelier the more people watch. Just 2 minutes before I took everyone to the rooftop to see the fireworks, I frowned and said to the security captain, I think I just saw a man dressed all in black sneaking upstairs. The upstairs is H1's lounge, and confidential documents and materials are also stored there. Take your team to check it out. Watch out for corporate spies or kidnappers. This kind of thing is very common in the business world. The security captain immediately became serious and nodded. Miss, I'll take my team up to investigate immediately. I guarantee not even a fly could escape. I nodded in satisfaction. After seeing them upstairs, I adjusted my hair and dress, then gracefully led a group of friends to the rooftop to enjoy the fireworks. With so many people, the elevator would take several trips, so our group naturally took the spiral staircase up. Coincidentally, we saw security personnel in uniforms opening Jiang Chuan's room. A woman's moans immediately spilled out. Ah, Chuan, be gentler. I can't take it anymore. You're really bold. Your fiancé and best friend are downstairs, yet you dare to play cosplay with me. Aren't you afraid of getting caught? Jiang Chuan's voice was deep and somewhat excited. If you hadn't been so provocative, sending me that video without panties, would I be this desperate? What are you afraid of? They're all downstairs drinking and dancing. Song Anan will take good care of them for me. You'd better stop worrying about them and start worrying about yourself. My birthday wish is to fuck you to death. You slut. The soundproofing in the mansion was excellent, but that was only if the door remained closed. Once opened, the sounds inside would escape. Everyone had been chatting and laughing quietly, but upon hearing those sounds, they all fell silent, even their footsteps stopping. The security captain's hand pushing the door froze midair. Everyone turned to look at me in unison. At this moment, my acting skills reached God tier. First I stood frozen in place, then my hand clutching the skirt began trembling slightly, until finally my eyes turned completely red, biting her lip, as if muttering to herself, impossible, this is fake, it must be fake. With that, she broke into a jog and pushed open Jiang Chuan's door directly. Footsteps sounded behind as everyone else followed suit. 2 pale figures were coupling in front of the mirror, the sight searing into my eyes. I screamed in fury, Jiang Chuan, Joanna, what are you two doing? For, no wonder they didn't hear the commotion. The fragrance of incense filled the room as the soulful Sound of saxophone music swirled through the air, creating an enchanting and emotional atmosphere. Jiang Chuan, who was in the midst of a sprint, suddenly raised his head upon hearing the noise and saw a large crowd standing at the doorway. Instantly, his vigor withered beneath him. He hastily picked up the clothes from the floor to cover Zhou Nana, but there were none to be found, leaving him no choice but to pull the nearby curtain around their naked bodies. His voice trembled as he spoke. Anne, listen to me, this is all a misunderstanding. I quickly stepped forward and slapped him hard several times, instantly swelling his face. My freshly done nails also scratched the corner of his mouth, making him look pitiful and disheveled. I was trembling with rage. The facts are right in front of me. Do you think I'm blind, Jiang Chuan? Have you no conscience? When your company had financial problems, it was my parents who sold several plots of land and took out bank loans to revive your business. You said you hadn't seen old friends in a long time, so I contacted them 3 months in advance to prepare your birthday party, just to give you a surprise. In elementary and middle school, you wrote me love letters for 9 consecutive years. After I returned to China, you even publicly confessed and proposed, saying you loved me and dreamed of marrying me, yet we were only engaged for 6 months before you cheated. Are you even human? You're nothing but a beast. These words perfectly match what a mistress would say when catching someone cheating in public. Jiang Chuan hung his head, too ashamed to speak. Jiang Chuan's mother flushed red and spoke apologetically. Nan, Jiang Chuan was completely in the wrong here. He not only let you down but also made us lose face entirely. No matter how you choose to punish or scold him, it's justified, but don't let anger harm your health. I didn't respond, just kept my head down and wiped away tears incessantly. My mother held me in her arms, her heart aching for me. Seeing that I hadn't expressed my stance, Jiang Chuan's mother knew the anger in my heart hadn't subsided. She couldn't bear to hit her own son, so she grabbed Zhou Nana's hair and slapped her hard, cursing while beating her. You knew my son was engaged, yet you still seduced him, you shameless slut. I know your type too well. Just after my son's money, willing to sell your body for it. I'll go ask your parents how they raised such a disgraceful daughter. Hearing this, Zhou Nana panicked. Don't tell my parents. Before she could finish speaking, Aunt Jiang slapped her several more times viciously. Jiang Chuan's lips trembled slightly, but in the end, he swallowed his plea. Thought he loved her so much. Turns out he's even more fragile than I imagined. What a spineless man. 5. Zhou Nana knew Aunt Jiang did all this just to appease me. Then suddenly, she dropped to her knees before me. Sister Annan, I'm sorry, it's all my fault. I couldn't control my feelings and seduced President Jiang, but it was just an accident. I never meant to ruin your relationship. I'll resign tomorrow and promise never to appear before you again. Please beg Mrs. Jiang for mercy on my behalf and don't tell my parents. They're just simple rural folks who struggled to put me through college. If this gets back to our village, they won't be able to face people anymore, and I'll be disowned. You're a woman too, must you be so cruel? Because I'm usually very easygoing and approachable, so even the other woman can morally blackmail me now. Mom's face turned pale with anger as she scolded. What, does the other woman actually have a point now? Is she something special? If only you had considered that Jiang Chuan was already engaged back then, and hadn't done such things to seduce a married man, none of this would have happened today. Everyone must take responsibility for their own actions. Zhou Nana remained silent, only kowtowing desperately. They didn't stop this scene, betting on my soft heart to forgive Jiang Chuan. My lips pressed tightly, brows slightly furrowed, appearing to struggle with hesitation while actually holding back laughter. For a mistress who knowingly becomes the other woman, I feel no pity. This is entirely self-inflicted. Only after admiring for quite a while did I slowly speak up. Stop kowtowing, I forgive you. As soon as the words landed, Zhou Nana stopped kowtowing, a slight smirk curling at the corners of her mouth. A glint of triumphant calculation flashed in Jiang Chuan's and his parents' eyes. They're betting on my kindness. My parents looked hesitant, though they didn't agree. They didn't stop me either. The greatest love they gave me was allowing me to be myself. Jiang Chuan couldn't wait to pledge his loyalty. And Nan, I swear I'll treat you well from now on, and I'll never betray you again. I forced a bitter smile and shook my head. No, I can no longer trust you. I feel like a complete joke. Tomorrow I'll announce in the papers that we're calling off the engagement. I'll return all the family stocks you gave me when we got engaged. And please return the seaside villa and luxury cars my family gifted you. I won't keep a single thing. Though our relationship is over, it won't affect our parents' friendship or the company's collaborative projects. Consider this the last thing I'll do for you. From now on, let's part ways amicably. With that, I turned and walked out. Dazzling fireworks erupted behind me, drowning out the voices of Jiang Chuan and his parents. Someone in the crowd started clapping first, followed by enthusiastic applause and cheers. The cheers and brilliant fireworks created a scene of utmost romance. They praised me for being loyal and decisive. 6. The next day, major newspapers all published the news of my cancelled engagement with Jiang Chuan. At the same time, I massively sold off shares of the Jiang Group, and many followed suit. Mostly friends who witnessed their infidelity yesterday. They were Jiang Chuan's friends, but they had long become my friends as well. While he was draining my family's resources, I also appropriated his network of contacts for my own use, and what I said yesterday was quite impactful, painting him as an ungrateful traitor, the kind of person most despised in business collaborations. The once thriving Jiang Corporation stocks plummeted, losing $1.7 billion in market value that very day. Jiang Chuan couldn't sit still anymore and ordered 999 roses to be delivered to my office. And Nan, today marks our 3-year anniversary. I've reserved the revolving restaurant for a romantic candlelit dinner tonight. I remember you mentioning your grandmother likes jade Buddha heads. My mom searched through all the auction houses and her contacts, finally finding a top-quality emerald Buddha head with exceptional color and translucency. Your grandmother will love it. I'll bring it to you tonight. A top-quality emerald Buddha head costs at least a small fortune. He's really going all out this time, but I'm not interested in anything except his life. Sorry, I'm very busy with work today and don't have time to eat. As he spoke, he handed over all the stocks and property his family had given as engagement gifts. Since you're here, just take it directly, otherwise, we'd have to send someone to deliver it later, which would be troublesome. When are you going to return my family's stocks? Jiang Chuan began to plead. And Nan, can't you really forgive me this time? It was truly an accident yesterday. Zhou Nana was the one who seduced me. I've already fired her. All these years of my kindness to you, everything I've given you, all my love, could you really not feel any of it? You can scold me, hit me, do whatever you need to vent your anger. I'll accept anything, but you can't abandon me. His handsome face was already streaked with tears. His amber eyes were filled with nothing but sorrow. Which woman would see this and not be moved to forgive with a softened heart? Well, I just took out my phone to capture this moment in a photo. Jiang Chuan's expression changed instantly as he anxiously said, and Nan, what are you trying to do? I chuckled lightly, putting my phone away as I said, weren't you just saying you'd accept whatever I do? Then I want to post this photo on my social media and expose your affair. Let netizens help me decide. If the forgive votes win, I'll forgive you. How about that? 7. Absolutely not. Jiang Chuan raised his voice and shouted, and Nan, doing this will ruin me. I shrugged, putting on a regretful expression as I said, then there's no other way. You refused it yourself. I'm going to attend the conference now. It'll take 5 or 6 hours. If you want to stay here, feel free to do so. After speaking, he took the documents and walked out. Jiang Chuan's face turned red with anger, gritting his teeth as he said, and Nan, are you really not willing to give me another chance? I turned back and gave him a cold glance, as if looking at a dead man. No. When I returned to the office after the meeting, Jiang Chuan had already left. The 999 fresh and delicate roses weren't taken away, so I arranged for the assistant to give each female employee 2 during afternoon tea. After all, no matter who sent them, roses are always beautiful. After finishing all this, I stretched comfortably and began editing the 15-minute video down to 3 minutes. Also adding mosaic effects. Jonana is truly useless. Even after being put on stage yesterday, she couldn't perform well and failed to rise to the occasion. Then I'll just have to help her myself. Half an hour later, the top 3 spots on the trending list were completely dominated. Hashtag top tycoon young master Jiang and his personal secretary battle it out for 300 rounds. Hashtag billionaire heiress of the song group suffers heartbreaking betrayal. Hashtag blue fireworks are truly breathtaking. Hashtag the comment section was buzzing even more, with all of Jiang Chuan and Zhou Nana's information being dug up. Some even compared all the information and data between me and Zhou Nana. From education, height, figure, to facial features and zodiac signs, I won in every aspect, especially the clean and decisive breakup at the end, which was simply awesome, earning me the title of breakup queen. The Jiang family began vigorously debunking rumors, claiming everything was false and threatening legal action. They simply looked down on Zhou Nana's humble family background, now further tarnished by scandal. With no redeeming qualities, she had become a laughingstock in their circle. The wealthier and more powerful people are, the more calculating they become. Their children must bear responsibilities alongside enjoying privileges. This was why Jiang Chuan maintained a secret affair with Zhou Nana in their past life. In that case, I'll give them one last favor. I hired a private investigator to dig up all the hotel check-in records and intimate videos of Jiang Chuan and Zhou Nana from their high school and college days. TSK. Over 30 pages of hotel records, not to mention their outdoor escapade in the parking lot, the half-hour together in the fitting room while shopping for lingerie, and even at the movie theater. Couples who never forget to cosplay even in public must be even wilder in private. 8. The cease and desist letter from the Jiang Group became a laughing stock, with me spending money to boost its visibility. This scandal became known to everyone. Under these circumstances, Jiang Chuan's parents had no choice but to consent to their relationship, no matter how opposed they were. After all, mutual affection sounds much better than being caught in bed, doesn't it? So they held another press conference. Jiang Chuan and Zhou Nana held hands tightly, looking exceptionally sweet. I apologize for occupying public resources. I'm here to clarify the false information circulating online. My marriage to Song and Nan, the heiress of the Song Group, was a business arrangement demanded by our parents. In reality, we had already broken up long ago. The allegations of infidelity are completely false, and I reserve the legal right to pursue action against those spreading these rumors. I urge everyone not to spread or believe in such baseless claims. I am deeply grateful for everyone's support in helping me successfully marry the woman I love, Zhou Nana. Our engagement ceremony will take place in 2 weeks. To many, Zhou Nana may seem like an utterly ordinary girl, but to me, she is the sun, so warm and kind. She pulled me back from the brink of despair. She is my salvation. I love her more than my own life. This script is excellent. It perfectly fits the public's perception of a wealthy, devoted man. While Zhou Nana embodies the kind-hearted Cinderella, they are running towards each other, and also redeeming each other. Their plummeting stocks began to soar again, showing a continuous upward trend. If the Jiang family hadn't returned the stocks and assets my family gifted during the engagement in advance, and additionally sent over an emerald Buddha head worth a small fortune, I would have definitely ruined this press conference, Mom said while stroking my hair with some heartache. Silly child, you've suffered so much injustice in this matter. You don't need to compromise and yield just because of our relationship with their parents. The reason your father and I work so hard in our careers is precisely so you won't have to suffer any injustice. I sighed helplessly and said seriously, Mom, I've told you hundreds of times I really wasn't wronged. The reason I conceded is that they offered me sufficient benefits. Although we helped Jiang Chuan's company initially, when our family faced decision-making problems later, their family also pulled us through. The collaborative projects between both parties were mutually beneficial. From a business perspective, commercial interests take top priority. Their compensation was adequate, and by capitalizing on this wave of traffic, our new product launch directly went viral domestically, leaving competitors far behind. Privately, Jiang Chuan has become a laughingstock in the industry, with many voices within the company opposing him. If he inherits the company in the future, he'll certainly have his hands full. Of course, the most important point I didn't voice out, my ultimate goal is to annex the Jiang Group. 9. Half a month later, Jiang Chuan and Zhou Nana booked the city's finest hotel to host their engagement banquet. Naturally, I also received an invitation. While I usually dress in sleek, powerful suits, today I wore an elegant and sensual silk gown. My entrance captured everyone's attention and praise. Jiang Chuan's eyes were filled with admiration, and I responded with a faint, knowing smile. Congratulations, congratulations, wishing you a lifetime of happiness together. Zhou Nana took a step forward, blocking Jiang Chuan with a triumphant expression as she spoke. Sister Annan, thank you. Both Chuan and I have received your blessings. Thank you for stepping aside. Otherwise Chuan and I wouldn't have been able to become a couple. You're a completely different person from the one who knelt on the ground begging me to return to my original form, I said with a half smile. You're welcome, as long as you're happy. After speaking, she gracefully entered the banquet hall. In my eyes, Zhou Nana is nothing more than an insignificant nobody. Even if Jiang Chuan hadn't cheated with her, there would have been countless Li Nana, Chen Nana, Lu Nana waiting in line, yet she clings to me like a persistent stray dog. The moment I stepped into the restroom to touch up my makeup, she followed right behind me. She even flaunted the 10-carat diamond ring on her finger. Sister Annan, isn't this diamond ring on my hand beautiful? Because I love pink, Chuan specially picked this pink one for me, and because I prefer Western-style weddings. He refused his mother's request for a traditional Chinese wedding. For me, he can defy his parents and even the whole world. I'm not saying these things to show off or provoke you. I just want to make it clear that you and Chuan are history. I'm his fiancé now, and I hope you'll keep your distance in the future. After leisurely reapplying my lipstick, I finally spoke with a mocking smile. Is Jiang Chuan really that stingy? The diamond ring he gave me was directly passed to you after I returned it. As for this wedding, if he truly loved you, he would have held it in a centuries-old castle abroad. When I mentioned liking vacations, he spent a fortune buying me a private island for my leisure. Don't worry, he'll probably gift you one soon too. About the distance, you'll have to discuss that with Jiang Chuan. Oh, let me show you something interesting. After speaking, he took out his phone and showed her the photos from days ago when he went to her company with flowers, begging for reconciliation while crying bitterly. Joanna's face turned red with anger. She originally wanted to humiliate me and reclaim the shame of her past kneeling, but ended up being crushed by me once again. I added with a smile, twisting the knife, don't treat me as an imaginary enemy. I don't look back at trash I've already thrown away. If you want to keep your position secure, you'd better watch out for other women. After all, someone who cheats once will cheat countless times. 10. Joanna was absolutely furious with me. She didn't even care about the setting and shouted angrily, Song Yanan, you vile woman, Jiang Chuan doesn't truly love you. He's only with you because your family's wealth can help his family through their difficulties. He told me himself that he detests arrogant workaholics like you who lack any feminine charm. No man could ever love someone like you. Her voice was loud, so loud that everyone nearby heard, including Jiang Chuan, who was having tea and discussing projects in the next room. He rushed over suddenly and grabbed Joanna, who was about to continue speaking. Enough, Joanna, shut up. Then he apologized to me with a look of remorse. I'm sorry, Annan. I smiled faintly, unconcerned. It's fine. She probably had too much to drink. Free-spirited people are quite endearing. The contrast between the two makes it clear which is superior. The others looked at me with even greater admiration, and I seized the opportunity to chat with them, snatching several new research projects from his hands. The future era undoubtedly belongs to new energy, and the Jiang Group has shown remarkable foresight by investing in Randy early on. Back then, I thought since we'd get married eventually, there was no need to spend money on redundant projects, but now it's different. I must get a piece of the scientific research pie, and not just the leftovers either. I want a seat at the table on stage. Jiang Chuan knelt on one knee, pouring his heart out in a romantic proposal to Joanna. I secured one project after another from the audience. 3 days later, Jiang Chuan, dressed in formal attire, was already waiting early in the conference room for the new energy battery partner to sign the contract. To secure this project, they spent over half a year and expended countless financial and material resources. In the end, he waited until dark, but the partner never showed up. The next day, I saw the ribbon-cutting ceremony with our partners on TV. He called me angrily, Song Yanan, what do you mean? You clearly knew the new energy project was our company's key initiative, yet you poached it. You were the one who wanted to break off the engagement, and we gave you sufficient compensation. What more do you want? I let out a light laugh and mocked. When I see a profitable project, of course I'll take it. What kind of businessman would I be otherwise? Might as well be a philanthropist. I gave up the new energy project to you back then out of love. Now I'm taking it back with my own capabilities. Proof that the water in my brain has finally drained out. Jiang Chuan was so angry he gritted his teeth. I'll give you the 2 plots of land in the west of the city, and you return the project to me. You know, I've been working tirelessly on this project for over half a year. It's extremely important to me. Those old fossils at the company already have it out for me. I'm counting on this project to turn things around. Song Yanan, you can't do this to me. You'll really ruin me. I let out a cold laugh. Do I really need to teach you such a basic principle as survival of the fittest? It wasn't me who destroyed you, but your own stupidity. With that, they hung up the phone directly, followed by the full-service package of blocking and deleting. Ruining him was just the appetizer. The real show is just beginning. 11. The Jiang Group has suffered a devastating loss in new energy technology. It's like a fish losing water, or a bird losing its wings. They'll survive, but barely clinging to life. Because of this mistake, Jiang Chuan was expelled from the board of directors, once a high-flying top tier rich second generation. He is now ridiculed by everyone as a fool who can't control his lower half. The glory that once followed my family is now matched only by how miserable things have become. Joanna is having an even harder time, and Jiang blamed all of this on Joanna, calling her a jinx and an unlucky wretch, either nitpicking and verbally abusing at home, or secretly scheming to make her quarrel with Jiang Chuan. And I occasionally post photos of buying luxury cars, jewelry, and designer bags, sharing them in WeChat moments visible only to her, so she started retaliatory spending. After all, she's the established elite Mrs. Jiang outside. She doesn't even need to swipe cards, just sign the bill directly. Now, the conflicts in their family have escalated even further. making the household atmosphere even more toxic. I'll occasionally tip off the paparazzi to expose their family scandals, while subtly dropping my name in the mix. This way, we can save a ton on the new product's promotional budget. Dad is usually stern and rarely cracks a smile, a very serious man nowadays. No matter the occasion, he's all smiles, brimming with pride whenever he mentions me. Our Nan truly has remarkable capabilities. Our company struggled for 2 years without success on the previous maritime project, yet she took it over and secured it within just 2 months of joining the company, opening 3 new routes and establishing 7 overseas branch offices. I don't know where she gets all that energy. One moment she's talking about how new energy technology is the inevitable trend of the future, investing tens of billions in R&D. The next, she's saying e-commerce is the new wave, catering to young people's shopping habits, and her e-commerce influencer incubation center is already thriving. It really is the young people's world now. We're getting old. My wife and I have agreed to retire in another 2 or 3 years and go traveling. The uncles and aunts listened, feeling both envy and admiration, and Nan is the best among the best of this generation, even surpassing how capable you two were back then. If my useless son were half as competent as your daughter, I'd thank my lucky stars. Your child is still alright, steady in their work, neither outstanding nor making mistakes. That's good enough, far better than the Jiang family's kid. Heaven literally spoon-fed him success, yet he managed to drop the bowl. Exactly, he seemed decent before, but now he's truly hopeless. They say one should marry within their social standing, or at least find a virtuous partner if that's not possible. But now, the whole household has been turned upside down because of her. They didn't even bother lowering their voices while saying these things. Uncle Jiang and Aunt Jiang nearby heard it loud and clear, their faces turning pale and green with shock. They used to be part of this circle of big shots, sharing information and discussing grand strategies. Now they're running around seeking investments and bank loans, barely keeping themselves afloat. Who would still include them? 12 Nowadays, I rarely attend banquets since the status and position are already established. Good collaborations come knocking on their own to discuss. However, I still occasionally attend some charity banquets. What a coincidence, running into Jiang Chuan. He didn't bring Zhou along. After all, she's a laughingstock in the circle, crude and ill-mannered being her defining traits. Now I always sit at the head table, with big shots smiling and toasting me from the side. I complimented how beautiful the necklace was. Then young talents began competing to bid for it, just to win a smile from me. Some even went as far as lighting the sky lantern directly. Jiang Chuan gazed at me from afar, his eyes filled with deep affection and regret. This scene made the front-page headlines of the entertainment news the next day, and my stunning photo instantly became legendary. I continued to spend money on promotion, and incidentally released the love letters he had written to me. Between the lines, it was evident how deeply Jiang Chuan loved me. So Zhou got all worked up again and came to my company trying to make a scene. In the end, she wasn't even allowed through the main gate, stopped by security outside. Jiang Chuan came looking for me too, bringing along the plush toy I once gave him. I'm a master at playing both sides. I didn't let either spouse in, and they ended up having a huge argument right at the entrance, nearly coming to blows. What a pity. Next time inform the security guards in advance. Their duty is only to ensure safety, not to mediate fights. However, they didn't let me down either. Zhou went to a KTV lounge, ordered a lineup of male escorts, and indulged in drunken revelry. Jiang Chuan went to a bar with his newly made dubious friends. Such a great opportunity. I definitely won't let it slip away. The next day, photos and videos of their mutual infidelity were all over the internet. Jiang Chuan and Zhou are going through a divorce. However, he didn't give Zhou a single penny, making her leave with nothing. Zhou naturally disagreed and proceeded to expose everything: his company's tax evasion, bribing officials for projects, and even her father-in-law's affair with a college student. Damn, it's a full-on dogfight with everyone joining in. Seeing the situation, shareholders immediately sold off their stocks, even at low prices. To avoid being left holding the bag, I seized the opportunity to buy in at a low price. They say a starved camel is still bigger than a horse, and it's true. This farce dragged on for over 2 months. It ended with Uncle Jiang in prison, Aunt Jiang suffering a paralyzing stroke from rage, and the company's capital chain collapsing before I acquired it. As for Jiang Chuan and Zhou, they finally got divorced, but she didn't get any share of the assets because the Jiang family went bankrupt, leaving behind a mountain of debt. Zhou got divorced and immediately found a middle-aged wealthy businessman to be his mistress. Life became comfortable again. She also occasionally exposed Jiang Chuan's chaotic private life online, including claims of impotence. Jiang Chuan was furious and paid thugs to warn Zhou Nana. The outcome was exactly the same as her previous life. While escaping from the thugs, she fell down the stairs and died instantly. The thugs implicated Jiang Chuan, who was sentenced to 5 years as an instigator of intentional assault. Truly a father-son reunion in prison. 13. Jiang Chuan wrote letters to me from prison begging me to save him. The handwriting was blurred, all stained with tear marks. I didn't respond, telling my secretary to collect them for me to read as jokes when I'm in a bad mood. But what I didn't expect was that he had also been reborn. Seeing that admitting mistakes and repenting was useless, he started threatening me. He said if I didn't help him pull strings to get him out, he'd kill me. After being released from prison, said all this was my fault. It's just cheating, isn't it? All men cheat. Why did you have to make such a public scene? Also said I ruined him, and he would definitely ruin me too. After reading the letter, I literally laughed out loud. Arranged for the secretary to find some people to go in and take good care of him before. I was thinking of making sure he learns what a living hell is after he gets out of prison. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day of his birthday. 3 years later, he was released from prison early, both physically and mentally tortured to the brink of madness. He was granted medical parole. He couldn't afford treatment, didn't even have money for painkillers, and was drowning in debt, and so, he died in that rented room. It was discovered a week later. The room reeked horribly, with rats gnawing at the body and maggots crawling all over. The face was twisted in agony, said to have died from unbearable pain. Serves them right, truly. The end. Story 2. I fell in love with my brother, Zhao Yandong, who has no blood relation to me. I pestered him persistently and eventually got pregnant, and finally married him. After marriage, he doted on me, but he rarely touched me. The last time I took the initiative to approach him, he said with a cold face, Song Jianan, don't you know what shame is? My heart gradually died, but I accidentally returned to the night when we first met. He was enchanted by me, however. I pushed him away and moved out of the Zhao family's house overnight. I even started a new relationship at a lightning speed, just to show him my determination not to pester him anymore. But Zhao Yandong lost his composure and blocked me downstairs at the dormitory. Nan, does your new boyfriend know that you were still with me 3 days ago? How dare you go on a date with him with these hickeys? 1. During a boring afternoon tea, the topic eventually shifted from jewelry and new clothes to men. My best friend Suing, who doesn't want to get married or have children, finished talking about her colorful love history when she made everyone envious. She suddenly smiled and looked at me. However, our Nan has the best taste. Mr. Zhao looks very capable at first glance. I was a bit stunned, poking at the cake on the plate, and suddenly lost my appetite. This is the 5th year of my marriage to Zhao Yandong, and the number of times we've been together after marriage can be counted on the fingers of one hand. Suing looked at me expectantly. You're Mr. Zhao just came back from a half-month business trip. Are you going to have a sweet reunion tonight after a short separation? 2. I smiled bitterly. He's working overtime tonight and staying at the company, then have some fun in the office. It's more interesting. Suing pulled me up. Don't look so resentful. Let's go buy a new battle dress now. Go straight to his office. This time you have to listen to me. You drain him completely so that he has no energy to find other women. I was a bit dazed. Other women? I can guarantee that there are no other women outside for Zhao Yandong, but I'm not sure if there is someone in his heart. After all, in the few times we were together, it was always me who took the initiative. If I don't take the initiative, he will never touch me. 3. Suing helped me pick a battle dress that cost nearly 5 digits. After the salesgirl helped with dry cleaning and ironing, Suing ordered me to put it on immediately. I just wrapped a thin trench coat that I wore when I came. I felt a bit embarrassed, but Suing said, Nan, I've been in love since I was 14 years old. I've dated as many men as Crucian carps crossing the river. There are no exceptions for men in this world. They are all visual animals. Trust me, if you go up like this, he will definitely love you to death. 4. But Zhao Yandong was obviously an exception, or maybe he really had no feelings for me. When I walked into the president's office on the top floor, he just raised his head from the pile of documents on the desk. He glanced at me indifferently. You sit there and wait for me for a while. Then he continued with his work, and when I locked the door from the inside, untied the belt of my trench coat and walked in front of him. He frowned slightly and looked at me for a second, then continued with what he was doing. Even the handwriting of his signature didn't get messed up. It was not until 5 minutes later that he put down the pen, closed the file, and turned off the computer. After standing up, he looked at me expressionlessly. Nan, put your clothes on properly. But I didn't listen to him. The trench coat fell lightly to the ground. The little black dress with silk satin and lace was as thin as a cicada's wing and couldn't even cover the roots of my thighs. Zhao Yandong's expression finally changed. The buttons of his clothes were buttoned all the way to the top, showing his usual cold and abstinent style, but at this moment, above the buttons, his extremely sexy Adam's apple rolled violently. His neatly trimmed sideburns revealed the skin behind his ears, which was slightly red. 5. Enduring my shyness, I wrapped my arms around his waist. Husband, do you like it? Zhao Yandong's body was very hot, but he still held down my restless hand and said in a deep voice, go home first. I don't know why, but my heart was filled with despair and a burning pain. I want to stay here. Nan Nan. Zhao Yandong was about to say something more, but I directly pushed him against the French window. I stood on tiptoe and kissed him. The boiling lava can devour everything, even the cold iceberg should melt at this moment. At the end, Zhao Yandong had taken the initiative. I braced my hands on the cold glass. My fingertips left long wet marks on the foggy glass. Finally, my knees were against the soft carpet, and my whole body was trembling when he carried me to take a shower. His movements were very gentle. I indulged unbearably and raised my face to kiss him again. Husband, I want more. But when Zhao Yandong looked at me, the remaining tenderness in his eyes suddenly turned into indifference. I was a bit at a loss and stared at him blankly. He pushed me away and his voice was even colder. Song Jianan, don't you know what shame is? I staggered and held onto the sink to stand firm, but Zhao Yandong turned around and went out. Tears welled up suddenly. Zhao Yandong, do you hate me so much? What responded to me was the sound of the door slamming shut. I took a hasty shower, wrapped in my trench coat and staggered away. When I got downstairs and was walking across the road in a trance, I don't know where a lunatic with a knife came from and stabbed me in the abdomen with a knife. 6. It was as if I had a very long dream, and when I opened my eyes again I saw Zhao Yandong, who looked 6 years younger at this moment. There was a look of confusion and desire on his young and handsome face. His eyes were filled with lust. I, who was 21 years old, was shamelessly straddling Zhao Yandong's body. I called him brother one after another. In a sweet and coquettish voice, Zhao Yandong seemed unable to hold back any longer, and he turned over and pressed me under him again. At this moment, I gradually came to my senses, but I suddenly pushed him away. It was this night that I got pregnant with Yang. With this child, I forced Zhao Yandong to marry me. 7. In the 5 years of our marriage, Zhao Yandong rarely had happy moments, only that one time I accidentally saw him talking to a girl wearing a white coat. She was beautiful and innocent. His expression was very gentle, and the smile in his eyes flowed naturally. The picture of them standing together was indescribably harmonious and well-matched. Perhaps from that moment on, my obsession gradually faded away. If it weren't for my seduction and entanglement, there wouldn't be a child. Zhao Yandong wouldn't have to marry me out of helplessness and be separated from the girl he liked. 8. Brother, we were just drunk. I will pretend that nothing happened tonight. I don't want you to take responsibility either. I stepped back towards the door and bent down to put on my shoes. Zhao Yandong's voice gradually turned cold. What tricks are you trying to play this time, Song Jianan? There are no girls as shameless as you, seducing your own brother. It won't happen again in the future. I forced a smile. Brother, I won't pester you anymore in the future. You can like the girl you like, you can marry the wife you want to marry. You don't have to be entangled by the shameless Song Jianan for the rest of your life anymore. I turned around, opened the door, and walked out of the room in big strides. I went downstairs to buy some medicine, then I called a car and went directly back to the Zhao family's house. I casually packed some personal belongings and moved to Su Ying's place overnight. When I left, my adoptive mother, Mrs. Zhao, just persuaded me a few words and didn't stop me. I know that in my previous life, when I married Zhao Yandong, it was a worry in her heart, in her eyes. Her only son, Zhao Yandong, whose background, appearance, and ability were all impeccable. His wife shouldn't be an ordinary orphan girl like me. I won't be so stupid in this life. 9. 3 days after I moved out of the Zhao family's house, in the WeChat group where both Zhao Yandong and I were in, someone suddenly sent a photo. God, is this the goddess Zhou Bijuan? She's back in the country. Brother Dong, is she here for you? I clicked on that photo. The girl in the photo had a beaming smile. Her face gradually overlapped with the woman I saw in my previous life. Someone sent another screenshot of a moment's post. The jade is going back to its rightful owner, Zhao. The accompanying picture was a photo of a very fine concentric white jade pendant. It was carefully held in the hand of a very handsome man. I recognized it at a glance. That hand belonged to Zhao Yandong. His fingers were very long and his nails were neatly trimmed. There was a very small mole on the pulp of his index finger. That night, I kissed that hand. I felt that my whole body was trembling, and my hands were shaking so much that I could hardly hold my phone. This is clearly an official announcement post. It's just short of Brother Dong's name. But they were in a good relationship before. Why didn't they end up together later? It's all because of Song Jianan. She couldn't wait to stick to brother Dong every day and broke up this couple. The group was silent for a moment, and someone changed the topic. I smiled self-deprecatingly and turned off my phone. Yes, the jade should go back to Zhao, and the clown should consciously step down. 10. Zhao Yandong felt a bit restless as he looked at the boring chat in the group. Song Jianan, who used to have countless WeChat messages and phone calls every day, but there had been no news from her in these 3 days. He simply threw away the cards in his hand and went out to smoke. Mrs. Zhao happened to call and asked him if he wanted to come back for dinner in the evening, but he suddenly asked, "What is Song Jianan doing? Is she annoying you again?" Mrs. Zhao was obviously in a good mood. This child insisted on moving out and going to her best friend's place. I thought that since the child has her own opinions when she grows up, I didn't stop her. She moved out. Yes, she's been out for 2 days. Zhao Yandong hung up the phone. The feeling of stuffiness in his chest became even stronger. Song Jianan had loved to pester him since she was a child, and shamelessly said that she was his little bride when she grew up. She tried all kinds of ways to seduce him. He had drunk a couple more glasses that night, and was really seduced by her into bed, but she said that they were both drunk, and they should just pretend that nothing happened, and she didn't even want him to take responsibility. 11. Thinking of this, Zhao Yandong couldn't help but laugh out of anger, but a clear female voice sounded behind him. "Yandong, it really is you." Zhao Yandong turned around and saw Zhou Bijuan. She stood there smiling, with bright eyes and a stunning beauty. "Long time no see." Zhao Yandong nodded slightly and casually moved his gaze away. "Long time no see, Yandong, let's have dinner together later." Zhou Bijuan looked at the man in front of her, and the admiration in her eyes couldn't be hidden. Over the past few years, she had many suitors. She had also met all kinds of outstanding men, but none of them could compare to him. Only he was worthy of her. Just as Zhao Yandong was about to refuse, his phone rang. He lowered his head and unlocked the screen. It was still a message from the group. Someone sent a screenshot of Song Jianan's Moments post a minute ago. She officially announced her new boyfriend. In the photo, the two of them were snuggling closely together, and Song Jianan was smiling very sweetly. She was 100 times sweeter than when she straddled his waist that day and lied to him that she loved him so much. Zhao Yandong's handsome face suddenly darkened. 12. Yandong, what's wrong with you? You look so bad. When a soft hand reached out and was about to touch his furrowed brow, Zhao Yandong directly took a step back to avoid it. "I still have something to do. I'm leaving first. Yandong, can't you have a meal with me?" Zhou Bijuan's voice trembled slightly, as if it was going to break the next second, but Zhao Yandong just looked at her misty eyes indifferently. "There's no need, Yandong. You're still angry with me, aren't you?" The tears that Zhou Bijuan had been holding back fell. "Russell, Miss Zhou, you're overthinking it." Zhao Yandong was in a very bad mood and didn't even want to be perfunctory at this moment. He turned around and walked towards the elevator, took out his phone and called his assistant. "Go and check what Song Jianan has been doing these days." Zhou Bijuan stared blankly as Zhao Yandong walked into the elevator without looking back. She didn't even noticed that her bag had fallen to the ground. How could this be? Why did the development of things go completely different from what she had expected? Zhou Bijuan unconsciously looked at her own figure in the mirror from head to toe. She was all exquisite and so beautiful that it made people's hearts flutter, but Zhao Yandong had only looked at her twice just now, and those 2 glances didn't show the slightest surprise or emotion. In Zhou Bijuan's beautiful eyes, a layer of darkness gradually covered them. 13. When my best friend Suing and I returned to the dormitory in the evening, we unexpectedly saw Zhao Yandong's car parked downstairs of the dormitory. As soon as Suing saw Zhao Yandong, she immediately poked me gossipingly. Nan, your brother is here to find you. Is this the first time?" Sure enough, the more serious a man is, the more sullen and lustful he is. "You said before that no matter how you seduced him, he was indifferent." "I don't think he was indifferent. He just enjoyed the feeling of you seducing him too much." But it's really exciting that an abstinent male god turns into a possessive and crazy person when he's jealous. "You're probably going to be exhausted by him tonight. You're thinking too much, Suing." I smiled helplessly. "He really doesn't like me," even though that night, he was deeply indulged and even wanted to have a second time insatiably. It was just driven by alcohol and desire. After all, in his eyes, I'm always a scheming and shameless person who seduces my brother. I still remember the day of my 17th birthday. I drank alcohol for the first time and took the opportunity to confess to him. The look in his eyes when he looked at me was filled with unconcealable coldness and disgust, and since then, he moved out of the Zhao family's house and lived alone. He even started to avoid me openly and secretly, but at that time, I was young and ignorant, and I didn't know where my courage came from. The more Zhao Yandong avoided me, The more obsessively I pestered him until 3 days ago, I finally got what I wanted in my previous life. I was complacent and full of hope because of his indulgence that night. It wasn't until 5 years into our marriage that I finally woke up from that ridiculous dream. The sharp knife stabbed into my body again and again, and the intense pain was still like a maggot attached to the bone, reminding me day and night, don't make the same mistake again, stay as far away from Zhao Yandong as possible. It would be best if we never met again in this life. When you like someone, why do you have to selfishly possess him with so-called love? Nan Nan, come here. Zhao Yandong extinguished the cigarette, and his handsome face seemed to be covered with a layer of frost. I'd been a bit afraid of him on ordinary days, especially when he is wearing formal attire and has a cold expression. As Suing said, I'm timid but also daring. Ever since I was a child, whenever Zhao Yandong glanced at me, my legs would go weak with fear. But surprisingly, when I grew up, I had the audacity to pester him persistently. Looking back now, I don't know where I got the courage that night. I asked the person I called brother to go to a hotel with me. Suing whispered in my ear, it feels like his eyes are about to eat you up. Baby, hurry up and go. If you don't go, the knives in his eyes will almost stab me to death. Suing gave me a gentle push and then turned around and ran away without being loyal. I could only muster up the courage to walk up to Zhao Yandong. I stood there obediently and spoke properly. Brother, you were looking for me. I even used honorifics. I haven't been this obedient in 10 years combined from my 2 lifetimes. I hope Zhao Yandong can see my determination and sincerity. 15. However, just like in my previous life, no matter how hard I tried, he couldn't treat me as intimately as an ordinary couple. It's the same now. Zhao Yandong is completely indifferent to my obedience and repentance. Are you in a relationship? Zhao Yandong's tone of voice was as calm as ever, and it was impossible to tell whether he was happy or angry. I summoned up the courage to look up at him and said, yes, we just confirmed our relationship today. Zhao Yandong seemed to let out a laugh. Just as I was about to heave a sigh of relief, he spoke again, and his voice was as cold as if it had been quenched in ice, making people's hearts tremble with coldness. Nan Nan, does your new boyfriend know that you were still in my bed 3 days ago? He slowly took a step forward and raised his hand to grip my chin. There were still a few patches of mottled hickeys on my slender neck, and Zhao Yandong's eyes suddenly narrowed. How dare you go on a date with him with these hickeys on your body, brother? I was greatly alarmed and said, we were both drunk that night. It was just an accident. I said I would pretend that nothing happened, and I took the medicine as soon as possible. As I said this, my heart suddenly ached with soreness. Yes, things have changed in this life. I took the medicine and won't get pregnant again in this world. There will never be a sweet and soft baby calling me mom again. When I was pregnant with Yang Yang in my previous life, my pregnancy was full of twists and turns. Later, I had an unexpected premature birth, and then I suddenly had amniotic fluid embolism during the operation. The doctors and nurses had to change my blood countless times before they could pull me back from the brink of death. Yang Yang was a precious baby that I risked my life for. Thinking of the things in my previous life and Yang Yang whom I would never see again, I felt as if my heart was being torn apart, and my eyes instantly turned red. 16. I don't know if the way I was about to cry made Zhao Yandong feel a bit of pity. He released his hand, and even his voice became a bit milder. What kind of medicine did you take? An emergency contraceptive pill. I took a deep breath, holding back my tears and forced a relaxed smile. It's better to avoid some unnecessary troubles as early as possible, just in case it delays you. This way, he could be with the girl he liked. Thinking of Zhou Bijuan in both lifetimes, I felt a bit sour and a kind of indescribable discomfort in my heart. If I hadn't accidentally gotten pregnant, Zhou Bijuan should have married Zhao Yandong long ago, right? Delay me, Song Jianan. When you confessed to me at the age of 17, why didn't you think that it would cause me trouble? 3 days ago, when you got drunk and asked me to go to a hotel with you, why weren't you as rational as you are now? It was you who said you liked me and loved me and tried every means to sleep with me. Now it's also you who said it was just an accident and wants to distance yourself from me completely. Zhao Yandong sneered. You're so young but have no sense of shame and play with others at will. Song Jianan, have you learned all your upbringing in the Zhao family and thrown it to the dogs these years? I looked at him helplessly, not knowing how to defend myself. If I could be reborn a little earlier, then none of this would have happened, and we wouldn't have ended up in such an embarrassing situation now. But unfortunately, I had a relationship with him. From Zhao Yandong's perspective, I was indeed hopeless and really had no sense of shame. But how could I explain it to him? Who would believe it if I told them about being reborn? I know you hate me and don't like me. I also know that I woke up too late. But now that things have come to this, brother, Tell me what I should do so that this matter can be put behind us. 17. Zhao Yandong raised his hand and loosened his tie. There was an indescribable restlessness and displeasure filling his chest. He clearly didn't like girls like Song Jianan. She was impulsive, bold, and always acted without thinking of the consequences. She was completely different from the gentle and decent girls in the Zhao family. None of his cousins or siblings had ever dared to be as unruly and disorganized as her. The first time she confessed to him at the age of 17, he was initially shocked, and in the end, he felt a bit of disgust and resistance. At that time, his relationship with Zhou Bijuan was still quite good, but ever since Song Jianan confessed to him, the situation started to change strangely. He deliberately distanced himself and avoided suspicion, but he couldn't help but keep an eye on everything about Song Jianan. Over the years, he had watched coldly, yet at the same time, he had morbidly enjoyed Song Jianan's persistent pursuit and entanglement despite repeated setbacks. On that night, somehow, he was bewitched by her and went to the hotel with her, and when she shamelessly pounced on him, he clearly wasn't drunk, but he still let the slight drunkenness consume him. He indulged himself and sank into it, but Song Jianan suddenly pushed him away. She even distanced herself from him without hesitation. She moved out of the Zhao family's house overnight, and then, she simply started a relationship with a new boyfriend. But how could she, after having such an intimate relationship with him, just turn around and throw herself into the arms of another man? 18. When they were on a date today, did that man kiss her and hug her the way he did? Zhao Yandong felt that he was about to go crazy with jealousy, and when the word jealousy flashed through his mind, he was stunned for a few seconds. How could he be jealous of Song Jianan's boyfriend? He clearly didn't like her, but was it really true that he didn't like her? If he didn't like her, why did he kiss her and want her and not expose her clumsy tricks? If he didn't like her, why did he reject Zhou Bijuan's confession? If he didn't like her, why did he let her pester him all these years? Zhao Yandong always felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't quite figure out what it was. It was just that many times, he always had a strange feeling that there was some invisible force pulling him. Every time his relationship with Song Jianan was slightly improved, he would break her heart severely, and in the past, Song Jianan would always soothe herself quickly and come back again, but this time, it seemed that she really wanted to give up. When she looked at him with red eyes and on the verge of crying just now, Zhao Yandong never knew that his heart could also ache. The look in Song Jianan's eyes at that time was truly full of grief and despair, making people feel uncomfortable. He even really wanted to hold her tightly and comfort her, but the words that came out of his mouth always went against his original intention. In fact, he had never thought that she was shameless, nor did he ever think that there was anything wrong with her. Zhao Yandong didn't know why he had become such a contradictory and indecisive person that even he himself despised, but there was one thing he was certain of: he couldn't accept Song Jianan being with someone else. 19. I've already said it, break up with him. Why, you haven't graduated from university yet, you can't be in a relationship now. I felt like crying and laughing at the same time. Brother, is there such a rule in the Zhao family? Since you mentioned the Zhao family has raised you for so many years, can't you even be obedient about such a small thing? Since I could remember, Zhao Yandong seemed to be like this. He was naturally cold-hearted, and the younger generation in the family was afraid of him, but he happened to have a face that was most capable of bewitching people. When I was young and in my prime, he was in my dreams every time. If he was a little bit nicer to me once, I could be happy for a very long time, but it happened very rarely. He didn't like me much. He tolerated me. Perhaps just because I was adopted by the Zhao family, he couldn't be as harsh on me as he was to other siblings. 20. Okay, I'll find an opportunity to make it clear to him. I'll break up with him first and get back together with him after I graduate from university. Anyway, a few months won't make a difference. I felt very tired. It's hard to stay sober and rational when facing someone you like, but this time, I had to be sober and rational enough to push him away forever. You're not allowed to get back together, Song Jianan. Zhao Yandong held my shoulders and gently pressed me against the car body. Brother. I widened my eyes and horrified and forgot to push him away, and the next second, Zhao Yandong suddenly lowered his head and gently kissed me. You're already mine. No one else can touch you except me. Nan Nan, remember every word I said today. 21. It had been a long time since Zhao Yandong's car drove away, and I still couldn't come back to my senses. In a trance, I had a strange premonition. Even though I was trying my best to avoid the tragedies of my previous life from happening, it seemed that there was still an invisible force driving each of us to step onto the same path again. And at this moment, when the car drove out of the school gate, Zhao Yandong suddenly felt a sharp pain in the depths of his heart. His face showed pain, and he raised his hand to press against his chest, but the pain couldn't be contained, and a fishy sweetness welled up in his throat. When the driver was so shocked that he suddenly braked to a stop, Zhao Yandong turned his head and spat out a mouthful of blood. The smell of blood filled the entire car. And the driver's voice was trembling. Mr. Zhao. I'll take you to the hospital right away, but Zhao Yandong pressed against his heart, which felt numb, and waited until the pain subsided. Then he said hoarsely, no need, take me back, Mr. Zhao. I'm much better now, take me back first. Zhao Yandong frowned deeply. He was such a wise and almost demonic person. He had faintly sensed that something was strange. However, he needed to verify his speculations and thoughts again. 22. On the weekend, as soon as Su Ying and I returned to her rental house, Zhao Yandong suddenly called, Nan Nan, where are you now? I'm at Su Ying's house. I'll come to pick you up later. Brother, do you have something to talk to me about? Yes, I do. I hesitated for a moment but still agreed. Okay, I'll wait for you at Su Ying's house. As soon as the call ended, Su Ying dragged me into her cloakroom, pick out a dress and change into it. I shook my head. Su Ying, there's really no need for this. I've already made things clear with my brother. Come on, Linley likes man and asked you to be a shield in front of his parents. You can just use him as a shield to deceive Zhao Yandong. You clearly still like him in your heart, and he, ever since you two slept together, has obviously changed his attitude towards you. Why don't you strike while the iron is hot? The fruit of a forced twist is not sweet. He is a responsible man. Maybe he just thinks that since it was my first time, he should take responsibility. I was a bit listless. I didn't know if it was due to my emotions or other reasons. Anyway, I felt very uncomfortable and couldn't muster up any energy at all. Su Ying was a bit frustrated. Come on, Song Jianan. Do you think a high IQ man like Zhao Yandong at the top of the pyramid, if he doesn't want to jump into those so-called traps, schemes, and pitfalls, who can make him do it? And as for so-called responsibility, he has 1,000 ways to solve your problem. Why does he have to take responsibility for you? He didn't say he would take responsibility for me either. I covered my lower abdomen and thought dazedly. In my previous life, it was because I was pregnant that he married me as soon as I graduated. The wealthy attach great importance to bloodlines. Maybe this is the most important reason why he would take responsibility, but no matter what the reason was, Zhao Yandong treated me and Yang Yang extremely well. He was a good husband and a good father. Nan Nan, I always feel that you've been very strange these days. Are you hiding something from me? Su Ying touched my forehead. You don't look well either. Are you feeling unwell? I shook my head. I'm fine. I'll be okay after adjusting for a few days. Su Ying was still worried. I always feel like you've become a different person. You're not noisy or lively anymore. You're so well behaved that it makes people uncomfortable. People always have to grow up. I hugged Su Ying and shook her gently. In both lifetimes, she was my best friend no matter what I did. Su Ying always supported me wholeheartedly. She was just so warm-hearted and loyal. It's a pity that I died too early and didn't know what happened to Su Ying later. 23. When Zhao Yandong arrived downstairs, he called me. I went downstairs and got into the car, but he didn't say what it was about. He just took me to my favorite restaurant. Then I was surprised to find that Zhao Yandong knew my preferences like the back of his hand. Moreover, throughout the meal, he was extremely gentle and considerate towards me. If it hadn't been for meeting Zhou Bijuan at the end, tonight would definitely have been the most wonderful night in my 21-year life. I wasn't wearing a beautiful dress, and because I wasn't feeling well, I didn't even put on much makeup, but Zhou Bijuan was dazzlingly beautiful. She was wearing a Chinese-style dress, and that concentric jade pendant was tied to her belt. When she appeared in the restaurant with that handsome and dashing man, almost all the men were secretly looking at her. I secretly paid attention to Zhao Yandong. He didn't look at Zhou Bijuan, and his expression didn't change either. I thought about it and attributed it to the fact that Zhou Bijuan had brought a male friend with her. Zhao Yandong remained calm on the surface, but he was probably seething with jealousy inside. Otherwise, how could he not even glance at someone he knew? There must be something wrong when things are abnormal. But although Zhao Yandong didn't look at her, Zhou Bijuan took the initiative to come over and greet us. Yandong, what a coincidence. You're having dinner with your sister. Zhao Yandong just nodded indifferently. Nan Nan likes this restaurant. The smile on Zhou Bijuan's face seemed to freeze for a moment. It took her a while to say, I also really like this restaurant. As soon as I returned to the country, I've been thinking about coming here to eat the fish. Zhao Yandong didn't reply. Instead, he just asked me, are you full? I nodded. Zhao Yandong then called the waiter to settle the bill. Zhou Bijuan stood there feeling a bit awkward. The beauty with red eyes was even more pitiful. I couldn't even bear to watch it, but Zhao Yandong directly stood up and told me to leave, saying, take your time, Yandong and I are going back first. Yandong. Zhou Bijuan murmured his name. Zhao Yandong didn't look back. Instead, he grabbed my arm and said, watch the way. I followed him out of the restaurant in a daze and entered the elevator. My mind was in a complete mess. It took me a long time to sort out some thoughts. He must have pulled me on purpose, deliberately to make Zhou Bijuan jealous. There was no other reason for him to do this. 24 However, we had already reached the underground parking lot. Zhao Yandong still showed no sign of letting go of his hand. Brother. As soon as I called out, Zhao Yandong exerted a little more force with his hand and directly pulled me into his arms. The next second, he lowered his head and kissed me again, and this kiss was deeper and more forceful than the one at school that day. Zhao Yandong didn't let me go until I was almost out of breath, but he didn't say anything. He just gently wiped the moisture from the corner of my mouth and said, "Let the driver take you back." I was a bit stunned. He hadn't been drinking, and when he came to pick me up, he was clearly the one driving, but my heart still accepted it with a sour feeling. Perhaps he was going to wait for Zhou Bijuan. I didn't say anything and obediently got into another car. When the car drove out of the underground parking lot, I couldn't help but look back, but there, Zhao Yandong's figure was already gone. 25 Leaning against the wall, Zhao Yandong stared at the pool of blood on the ground. This time, the pain came more violently, and he almost couldn't hold on until Song Jianan got into the car and left, and after spitting out this mouthful of blood, the unbearable pain disappeared. Previously, Zhao Yandong went to his own private hospital for a physical examination alone. He especially had his heart examined, but the examination report showed that his physical condition was very good. There was nothing abnormal with his heart. 2 hours later, Zhao Yandong saw today's physical examination report again in the doctor's office. There was still nothing abnormal, but what on earth caused such sudden angina pectoris and spitting of blood? He drove back to his private residence. He asked all the servants to leave and turned off all communication tools. He needed an independent and quiet space. He wanted to carefully think about all the things that had happened over the years. He started thinking from the day when Song Jianan confessed to him on her 17th birthday. He wouldn't miss any clue. 26 After Zhao Yandong took me out for a meal that day, we completely cut off all contact with each other. However, there was also no news of him getting back together with Zhou Bijuan in the circle. After getting through the initial pain and suffering, I finally seemed to completely accept this reality, but I didn't expect that the change would come so suddenly. When Suing was awakened by my groans, it was already late at night. She turned on the light while calling my name, Nan Nan. Suing was so scared that she started crying directly. At that time, I was curled up on the bed in pain, and the blood gushing out from below had already stained the snow-white bed sheets. I was taken to the hospital by an ambulance. The nurse directly pushed me, who had lost too much blood and was in a state of shock, into the emergency room. In my previous life, I encountered amniotic fluid embolism, which had a probability of 1 in 100,000, but fortunately, I had a lot of money and the best and top-notch medical resources, so I managed to survive against all odds. In this life, I had clearly worked hard, but the development of the situation still seemed to be out of control. I took the contraceptive pill, but it led to an ectopic pregnancy. The embryo ruptured, causing unbearable abdominal pain, massive bleeding, and I went into a coma due to shock. If Suing hadn't woken up that night, I didn't know what the final result would be. After waking up, I couldn't help but think in my mind, was it possible that this life would still end up the same way? No matter how hard I tried, I would still die prematurely in the end, maybe in a car accident or due to some other sudden accident. And was all of this a punishment from heaven for my past absurdity and ignorance when I was young? However, I had been desperately trying to control myself to stay away from Zhao Yandong and stop loving him. When Zhao Yandong came to see me, I didn't want him to see me crying like a weakling, so I pretended to be asleep. Zhao Yandong seemed to have stood by my bedside for a very long time. My body was about to become stiff, and my legs were numb. Then he bent down, gently tucked in the quilt for me, and turned to leave the ward. The sound of the door closing was very soft, but my tears suddenly burst out like a dam breaking. 27 After being discharged from the hospital, Mrs. Zhao took me back to the Zhao family. After raising a child for almost 20 years, she still felt sorry for me in the end. The people in the Zhao family were all very nice, but the nicer they were, the more it showed my despicability. My body was getting better day by day. I also started planning for the future, getting certificates, and finding a good and stable job, being able to support myself and gradually repay these people who loved me. That would make me satisfied. As for other things, I didn't have the energy to think about them. On the day I finished my confinement after the miscarriage, Suing kept calling me on voice chat. When I came back from a walk and just picked up my phone to answer, I heard Su Ying's urgent voice. Nan Nan, have you seen the news? What happened? Zhao Yandong and Zhou Bijuan had a public falling out. A falling out? Why? Because of a piece of jade. That very famous Hetian white jade concentric pendant. Do you still remember? Of course I remembered, Zhou Bijuan posted it on her Moments, the one that Zhao Yandong carefully held in his hands. She was a very famous antique restorer. That jade pendant with a history of 1,000 years was restored by her own hands. Since then, Zhou Bijuan had become famous. Nan, just now, Zhao Yandong smashed this piece of jade. I was stunned. Suing, what did you say? The value of this piece of jade was inestimable. A renowned cultural relic collector had once offered a sky-high price of 1 billion yuan for it. I don't know what got into Zhao Yandong. First, he bought this piece of jade, and then he smashed it on the spot. Su Ying's voice was full of disbelief. Nan, how rich is your brother exactly? 28. I randomly clicked on the videos online. All kinds of heated discussions were already boiling and noisy. Every app push was the top trending topic. But Zhao Yandong must have done something because almost all the videos of the scene had been deleted. It took me a long time to find a few blurry pictures. That white jade pendant that he had once carefully held in his hands and cherished, it was shattered on the ground. Zhou Bijuan obviously couldn't accept it and shed tears on the spot. She knelt on the ground and cried so pitifully that it made people feel sorry for her. But Zhao Yandong's expression was very cold. He stood there, looking tall and elegant in a black suit, but his handsome face was like an iceberg that could never be melted. There was a terrifying chill emanating from his whole body. I had never seen him with such a serious expression. I didn't even dare to look directly at the picture. Just then, my phone suddenly rang. The name flashing on the screen was Brother 29. I was sitting in the car, next to Zhao Yandong. The car drove smoothly forward and finally stopped outside a luxurious store. Nan, Zhao Yandong took my hand and said, the time is tight. Let's buy a pair of couple rings first. Couple rings? I was completely confused, but Zhao Yandong smiled and bent down to kiss me. The wedding rings have already been designed by the designer. I want to go to the international auction house abroad to select the diamonds myself. I know that a bought ring doesn't show enough sincerity, but Nan, I want to marry you, and I can't wait for even a single day. Brother, I don't understand. I don't get it. I was still confused. The man in front of me was the one I had liked since I was 16 years old. He had made me cry, laugh, and suffer, but I still loved him. However, the him standing in front of me at this moment seemed so unfamiliar. His eyes were only looking at me. The way he smiled at me was more tender than I had ever seen. He seemed to love me very, very much. But how could Zhao Yandong love Song Jianan? My tears welled up unconsciously, and I took a step back in a daze. Don't lie to me, brother. Don't play with me like this. I'll take it seriously. I shook my head, laughed, and then cried again. Zhao Yandong, we can't get married, we can't be together. I didn't want to die, and I didn't want to ruin his life either. Nan, do you still remember that you once studied antique restoration with Mr. Su? I immediately covered my ears. I don't remember anything. That was my most painful memory. I deceived myself and didn't want to mention it or recall it. I think Mr. Su also didn't want to remember it again. The beloved apprentice he personally recruited in the end would become a joke. Zhao Yandong held my hand, and his expression was very serious. Song Jianan, you were Mr. Su's most proud student. You shouldn't give up on yourself. The injury on your hand has long since healed. It won't affect every movement of yours when you restore cultural relics. No, you don't understand. Zhao Yandong, you don't understand at all. It wasn't just the injury. Everything had changed. I couldn't control that change. It was like a person who had some talent in a certain field watching helplessly as their talent was lost overnight but being powerless to do anything about it. That feeling was too painful. I never wanted to recall it a second time in my life. I know, Nan, I know everything. Zhao Yandong held my hand and pulled me into his arms. He gently stroked my back and comforted me tenderly and patiently. It's all over, Nan. The plot of our story should return to the original right track. 30. What was the original right track like? She was adopted by the kind-hearted Mrs. Zhao when she was still in swaddling clothes. She grew up carefree until she was 16 years old. Mr. Su, who had a very close relationship with the Zhao family, accidentally discovered her amazing talent for antique restoration. At the age of 17, she was specially recruited into University B and became Mr. Su's favorite student. She was beautiful, intelligent, and diligent, willing to work hard. At just over 20 years old, she restored a national treasure antique of amazing value. Since then, she became famous and shone brightly. She even became a pearl of the Zhao family and Mrs. Zhao's proudest daughter. At the age of 24, she married her childhood sweetheart and elder brother, Zhao Yandong. After marriage, the couple loved each other deeply and had a son and a daughter. They were truly an example envied by everyone and were in love for a lifetime. Finally, they lived to the age of 90 and passed away of natural causes. They had a large family with many descendants. and all of them were intelligent and promising. The Zhao family was prosperous and flourishing, and it thrived from generation to generation. The real ending of the story was as perfect as it could be. However, in the previous life, the husband and wife were separated by life and death. In this lifetime, he would never let the same tragedy happen again. That concentric pendant that he personally smashed, if it hadn't been destroyed by him at this moment, then, in the near future, it would be restored by its true owner, his wife, Song Jianan. When she started restoring this concentric pendant back then, she was accidentally injured on her hand. After the injury healed, she lost the talent and ability that she was most proud of. In the end, she became an ordinary person, and this jade pendant, by a twist of fate, was restored by Zhou Bijuan, which made her gain great fame. It also led to the tragedy of their whole life, so this time, he destroyed the jade pendant, corrected the plot, and prevented that yet to happen tragedy. Perhaps it was the mercy of heaven. In this second life, she had the memories of her previous life, and he, after her rebirth, began to be frequently reminded by a strange dream. 31. He had never experienced such pain in his life. In that strange dream, he married Song Jianan, and they had a very cute and well-behaved son. But in the 5th year of their marriage, Song Jianan was stabbed 17 times in an accident, and each stab was fatal. When he rushed to the scene, she had already died, and almost all the blood in her body had flowed out, but only that face that always smiled brightly at him was intact. He walked over like a walking corpse. He knelt on the ground and tremblingly picked up her broken body, but his movements were extremely gentle, as if the bloody mass in his arms was all his treasure. The police, doctors, and nurses all arrived at the scene. They tried to pull him away, but it was all in vain. Finally, Zhou Bijuan came. Yandong, you can't be like this, come with me quickly. If you continue like this, you'll die. He didn't understand why. Zhou Bijuan cried and said, Yandong, listen to me, I love you, and I won't harm you. We were meant to be a perfect match. Song Jianan is dead, she deserved it. Now the plot should return to the right track. You love me, Yandong. I'm the one who will finally marry you and have children for you. But he pushed Zhou Bijuan away fiercely. I have only one wife, in this life, the next life, and for all eternity, I have only one wife, he murmured and continued to kneel on the ground, carefully picking up her drooping hand. The wedding ring was still on her ring finger. She had never taken it off. She still loved him deeply until her death. For the first time in his life, Zhao Yandong shed tears. Those burning tears fell in big drops on her face and her broken body. His heart started to ache, and he spat out blood mouthful by mouthful. In the end, it even gushed out. Holding a white jade pendant, Zhou Bijuan kept murmuring, why is this happening? You clearly promised me that all the plot would go as I planned, but why doesn't he still love me? Zhao Yandong, Zhao Yandong. Zhou Bijuan crawled on her knees from the ground and tried to take off the wedding ring on his ring finger. Take off the ring, Zhao Yandong. Forget her, please, Zhao Yandong. Forget her, or you'll die. But her body was pushed away heavily again. Zhao Yandong was covered in blood as he held Song Jianan, who had already passed away. The two hands wearing their wedding rings were tightly clasped together. Blood spurted out from his mouth and nose, and his heart seemed to be breaking piece by piece, but he couldn't feel the pain. No matter how much pain he felt, could it be as painful as what Nan Nan had endured? It was only at this moment that he finally saw his own heart clearly, and it was also only at this moment that those invisible things that had controlled him were completely pulled out of his life. He finally understood that he had always been in love with her, even though the setting was like that in a script, which always made him lose control. But the heart that loves someone can never be fake. In his dream, he watched himself die. If there is a next life, if there is an afterlife, he will make her the happiest woman in the whole world, the happiest wife. 32. Zhao Yandong left. Zhou Bijuan was still kneeling on the ground, looking dazed. She didn't understand. Clearly, she was the female protagonist in the story. Clearly, she had stolen all of Song Jianan's good fortune. She became increasingly beautiful and dazzling, intelligent and sharp. She learned everything quickly and proficiently, and was surrounded and envied wherever she went. And Song Jianan, who was originally full of vitality, gradually became mediocre. In the end, she changed from Mr. Su's most proud student to a stain that no one wanted to talk about. Zhao Yandong should have reasonably pursued her and then married her. Song Jianan would have become an overly confident and whimsical woman, a cannon fodder who shamelessly pestered Zhao Yandong but was rejected by him. In the end, she would be driven out of the Zhao family and spend her life in a muddled and crazy state. But Zhou Bijuan just couldn't figure it out. Why did Zhao Yandong still like Song Jianan? Why was he still involuntarily attracted to her? Why, even though she was standing right in front of him, shining brightly, there was only the mediocre Song Jianan in his eyes? Clearly, it was she who had restored this jade pendant. Clearly, the story of each of them was supposed to proceed according to her plan, but why did the plot still get out of control? Now that the jade was broken, those fragments were taken away by Zhao Yandong. They would once again fall into Song Jinan's hands, and the story would once again return to its starting point. Everything was over, but everything would also start anew. Zhou Bijuan slumped to the ground in despair. She stared at the already empty gate, and finally, the tears in her eyes fell. So, is it true that what doesn't belong to you can't last forever even if you snatch it? Perhaps one day in the future, she will have an epiphany. The real female protagonist would never take things from innocent people, and from the moment she had those evil thoughts, she no longer deserved to be the female protagonist of this story. 33. It took me a whole month to restore that concentric jade pendant again. My hands were still a bit rusty, but most of that confident feeling from the past seemed to have returned. I think it won't be long before I can continue doing the thing I love the most, and currently, the most urgent matter is the upcoming wedding between me and Zhao Yandong. He was like a completely different person, gentle, patient, and clingy. We spent most of the day together, but Zhao Yandong still thought it wasn't enough. Every time he went on a business trip, he would take me with him. Suing was quite jealous of this, and the number of times we were together after marriage could be counted on the fingers of one hand, and every time I went out for less than 2 hours, Zhao Yandong couldn't wait to come and pick me up. Later, though, Zhao Yandong and I held a Chinese-style wedding. I asked Suing to be my only bridesmaid. I also gave her a big red envelope with a 6-figure amount and arranged for 10 extremely handsome guys to accompany her to eat, drink, and have fun. So Suing wasn't angry with me anymore. Also, this concentric jade pendant